show. I have had the audacity and defiance of God's will to do this show with this gentleman next to me 24 times. That is unholy.
I'm counting.
First of all, it's our season finale. Hooray! I hope you're doing great out there. My name is Levi Rowland. This is Brian Cain. Next to me, we are high priest in the Alexandrian tradition of witchcraft. Brian is also the high priest of the New Orleans Coven. We are super happy that you are with us this evening for this, our final show of season 2, where we are looking back on what we've done and maybe some other surprising things.
I came up with like a new title for myself.
Okay, go ahead, shoot it.
High priest of the Egyptian gods. And I messed it up. Royal Witch Prince of Celtic society.
I don't think we're streaming.
Oh, it's not even going?
I don't think so. Cue the call from Christian in 3, 2... No? Nobody?
Why do you think it's not streaming?
Because it's not popping up. See? We also have ads now. We're very fancy. If you're watching us, let us know through Facebook and or YouTube. We love you. Oh, we're on YouTube now. We are. Okay. Just making sure, guys. We've had some storms here in the French Quarter and in New Orleans. It's been pretty bad today.
Nobody's saying hi on here, though.
If you can't see us and you're watching through Facebook or anything, or if there's any issues, let us know in the chat. We will see your comments and we will work on it. Okay?
I hope it's not going to be one of those season finals that don't go through. We've had
season finales that don't end well.
Shows like that.
It's going to be just like a lot of other shows.
Anyway, if you are in the chat on Facebook, could you say hello to us so we know we don't need to reset this?
Oh, I'm seeing comments both on Facebook and
but they're
YouTube.
Not coming through.
But they're not coming through.
Are we coming through clearly, everyone?
But I see your lovely comments here on my phone, so we can do that if we absolutely have to.
Why is it doing that?
I do not know.
I don't know.
But yes,
I'm an advocate for changing programs because I swear it's this program.
People are like, oh, it's the last season. It is. It is.
It's not the last season. It's the last episode. So our episode 12 of our first season, we did the countdown to Hexfest, and this is the 12th episode for this. So when I first asked Levi to do the show with me, I said, let's do 12 episodes and see how you feel, if you want to do it more. And we decided to do another one, and so on and so forth. So this is our 24th episode, and so I actually was like gonna, of course that's not gonna work out, it's gonna be annoying. So we're gonna have some calls tonight, hopefully, if everything works out. I'm hoping this episode doesn't turn out to be skippy. Oh, you got it to come out.
Maybe. I'm working on it, guys. So we'll see comments soon. I can see them on my phone. I see all of you. Blessed be Carrie. Thank you to all the watchers.
We have people who are monitoring this who know what they're doing. Hopefully they're seeing that everything's not working. Because that's not the internet. I don't know what that is.
It's not the internet.
So anyway, I was going to read all the episodes we've done.
Yes.
Kind of with sort of a flashback. So season 1, stop looking. He peeks.
Okay, I was on all the shows.
He tried to sneak his, but you won't remember them all. There's too many.
That's true, but I was on
very first episode, Sex in Witchcraft. That was our first episode.
It was.
It was clickbait, and it was fun, and I really enjoyed it, and it was our first episode, and we looked great. Next episode was Initiation, which of course is an important subject to us. The next one after that was Labels in Witchcraft. Episode 4, The Gods. 5, Spells and Curses. 6, Covens. 7, Witchcraft Mythology.
I liked that.
8, Getting Started. That was the one that Karen, I think, was on with us.
Yes, it was.
Dedication, and she spilled some tea about, I don't know, the fact I guess I've always been mean or something.
It's true. He's always been mean. Always.
Dedication versus Rebellion. Pop Culture. That was a real fun one. People really liked that one. Occasionally we just get silly. The Devil, where we had our one and only video call in.
We did.
And then that season finale was Countdown to Hexfest because it ended right before Hexfest. So this season, we started out with the Priesthood of Witchcraft, which had one of my favorite episodes where we had a guest, Rosie, from merry old England, was on with us. We had a lot of fun with that. And then we had on YouTube our most watched episode, Alexandrian versus Gardnerian, one of our more popular episodes, which was extremely important and informative. That. I don't think it's our most watched episode because the problem is, especially in season 2, is YouTube does not get all the clicks. Because anyone who watches from Facebook, YouTube doesn't get credit. We get a lot of Facebook watchers. In fact, it was one of our recent shows that Levi got a message from Crowdcast that said, this is your most watched episode, because Crowdcast can tell.
All of them, yeah.
All of them. If you'd like to call in tonight with questions, the number is 504-321-3472. We get to finally see if the phone works. So once again, that number is 504-321-3472. Expect technical difficulties.
Expect technical. I love
after that. Advanced practice. That's the episode where I first came on blonde.
I love how this is what he remembers from it. Not the like philosophical things we might have taught or cared about, but no, I was blonde on that one.
Witchcraft and I've been blonde since then. So that was episode 3 this season that I went blonde. Witchcraft and superstition, which means something to some people. They love it or they hate it. Like there's like some real people. Some people really love it. There are people who really, really hate it. They want me to go back to retro Brian. Witchcraft in nature, witchcraft in the Sabbaths, airing the dirty laundry, which seems like yesterday. Folk magic, monotheism, which was a great episode. And,
I like that one.
Things we love and hate, which I think we were kind of trying to play off like the same kind of idea with pop culture. We had fun with it. It wasn't as fun as pop culture, but we did enjoy it.
Yeah, the references in pop culture are more universal. Like people are all watching the shows and talking about them. It's different.
It was important in its own sort of cultural way. And then our last episode was authors. And tonight we're calling Interview by the Coven because some, assuming things don't go wrong, some of the New Orleans Coven may be calling in to say hello. We might have some pop-ins. Obviously, not everyone will. Secret initiates will not, or people who couldn't make it will not. So, and you know, like I said, who knows?
The technical difficulty aspect is driving me insane because I'm going back and forth.
If they don't call, we've
comments.
got no idea what we're going to do. But once again, unfortunately, for some strange reason, we cannot see your comments like we normally can.
No, I'm having to do it on the phone.
However, you know, I don't know why we haven't called. Hold on 1 second. Call Fallon and ask her if she can figure this out for us.
I will. I'll message her.
That's why she's here.
So we're going to message our tech support.
If you call. He's just no. Oh, I probably don't have her number.
Fallon is watching. I promise. She's going to watch
Fallon,
our texts.
if you can pop in, we cannot see. We don't have our face masks on.
So I thought one of the things that I wanted.
See if we're doing something wrong.
We're not. There's some error. It just didn't stream to the Facebook things. So we can't pull comments from Facebook. It says error. See the little errors?
So Facebook's not getting this tonight?
No, they're getting it. We just can't see their comments. Like I can see you on Facebook and see your comments and everything,
Weird.
but just not in the unified way that we normally can, which is much useful.
Well, anyway, tonight's sort of like we can explore any subject, past subjects, past shows, things about us, things about the Alexandrian tradition. I don't know, Levi, talk about some of your favorite episodes. What were some of your
my favorites
favorite
were
moments? What did I do to shock and appall you?
Many things that I don't want to bring up again ever. My favorite moments were some of the episodes where we had really great questions. I know, God help us. I did have one question though that I thought was interesting, which is I don't rewatch these necessarily. I'm not that vain, I promise. But I do think about them a lot after we do them.
You told me once that you watched them.
I have watched them, yes, but I don't sit around and rewatch.
The devil lies.
The devil is a liar.
You just said you didn't watch it.
Do you
and
know?
Then admitted that you do. I
don't watch them in
Trump.
Oh my God! I will get this.
I never watch these. I'm not that vain, except for I know what's on every one because I watch.
My question is this: one of the things I noticed in thinking about all the episodes we've done is, do you notice that like certain things become your sort of like the hill you're going to die on? You know what I mean? And like in doing this and being public and answering so many questions, what big things do you think have come through for you that you're like, this is obviously something I keep coming back to?
Well, I think that and I talked about this recently, actually, even at HexFest, because we had sort of a day of chill where Christian and I were just sort of like in the cyber lounge and many authors, presenters came through and I think somebody's crashing the party. Oh, what is this? A surprise! What did you bring?
I brought, first of all, can they see me? I brought white flowers.
This is Ellie, everybody.
Ellie Barnes is here with us.
She brought us flowers.
Would you set them on the altar, maybe?
Yeah. And I'm here to help you, and I'm here to congratulate.
Yes, it's Ellie. It's the fabulous Ellie Barnes, Coven member.
It's our 24th show.
I'm so impressed.
It's amazing.
She says to me.
I have gorgeous Restoration Hardware champagne flutes with Prosecco and
Oh, goodness.
We have a phone call, though.
Well, we got to take this phone call, Ellie.
Hello?
Hello, hello.
Hello?
Who am I speaking to?
Levi.
Hey,
And
Levi.
Brian.
And Brian.
Who's this?
Oh, I'm watching you guys on YouTube, so I'm guessing it's a little delayed.
Oh, okay. You're on YouTube. Who's this?
It's Brian.
It's Brian.
I was the one who video called in the episode.
Oh, hi, Brian. Hello,
Hi, Brian.
Yes, the devil episode. You were our one and only video. We ended up changing from Restream to Crowdcast, and Crowdcast, that's why we stopped doing the video crawl-ins, because it doesn't have a method. So, or if it does, we haven't ascertained that yet. So we might do it again someday. But thank you for being actually, you are our one only caller. No one ever calls in on the phone.
You are our video caller. Now you're our phone caller.
Yeah, now you're our first phone caller. You're the only one listening.
I have a juicy question
Okay.
that I would like you guys to elaborate for me.
Interrupt, but I want to say.
Okay.
Can they hear me?
Hold on, not
But
yet.
he's in the middle of a question. So hold
Sorry,
on.
guys. We're getting a
You
question.
can't hear.
And the
So-
wonderful Miss Ellie is pouring us champagne.
All right, go ahead,
Let
Brian.
me take it off speaker. Okay. So, first question. The term, do as thou wilt. I've noticed, I actually saw someone talking about it the other day on TikTok, who's a very informative person. They're an occultist. And they were talking about how a lot of people get that saying, like, it's been totally watered down. It's not what people think it means. And was just wondering if you could elaborate on that saying, do what thou wilt. Because it doesn't mean to do whatever the hell you want, obviously.
No.
Well, it's a higher occult thing, and I actually do address that in my book, Initiation to Witchcraft. Self-indulgent plug. I do address that. It's probably what's known to most as the Wiccan Reed, which was originally called the Witch's Reed or the Witch's Creed. It's a reed. It's a riddle, a good way to live. And it got transferred into being like some sort of holy commandment. But do what you will is something that many occultists strive to know, find, and fulfill their true will, which means being connected to your higher self, being connected to Godhead and understanding your purpose, your divine purpose, and seeking to fulfill it. The origins of the witch's reed, there's a lot of negotiation about it because it actually appears, a lot of people attribute it to Aleister Crowley and the Book of the Law, but it does actually appear in a fictitious work, much earlier, a French one, right?
It's Rabelais' Gargantua and Pantagruel.
So it has a predecessor, to Aleister Crowley, and who knows who the inspiration to Crowley or Gardner was, but it really is it's an occult riddle, but it's a good way to live. I find it very strange that people get so up in arms about not harming people or things, and I think of it like this. If you're going to, let's go straight to murder, because that's what I think people think about quite often.
Straight to murder,
When it comes to magic, when people think about cursing and things like that, it's steal someone's lover, murder someone, give them cancer, whatever it's going to be, It's never,
Brian, you okay?
May they bump their head. I think the crime is the same regardless of whether or not it's magical. I don't want to know somebody that goes around shooting people in the head. So basically, inside witchcraft, inside the craft that we practice, it is a cult guideline that does have deeper meaning. Yes. Levi, do you want to?
What'd you say, Brian?
No, I was agreeing with you. I just find it fascinating because what the guy was talking about, how Salim and Levi, I may need your help with this because I kind of forget what these two words translate to, but he made a connection with the word Salima and Agrippa.
Oh, agape. Are you talking about agape? Love?
Agape, yes.
Okay.
Agape, I thought you were saying
This comes from, not to interrupt you, but this comes from a very specific place. The phrase, do what thou wilt, is originally in French, fais ce que tu voudras, and it comes from a story in Gargantua and Pantagruel, which is a work by a 16th century monk named Rabelais in France. And he goes to an abbey and the name of the abbey is Thelema. So this is where Crowley got it from. And Thelema means...
he got it from there too.
And Thelema means will in Greek. We know this. And above the abbey is one law that's etched into the stone in French, and the French translates into English as do what thou wilt. right? And then they go on to say under love, right? So basically the concept is that here's how I sum it up, and this I'm actually stealing from Christian mythology. True freedom is and always will be the freedom to become what you were meant to be. So anything other than that is a false sort of freedom. It's just anarchy. Real freedom is the freedom to become what you were meant to be. That's initiation, okay?
Wow.
So that's real freedom. Real freedom is when you realize what you're supposed to be and you're not chained and you can actually achieve it. Anything other than that's just cheap desire.
So I think the thing that we'd want to send people off with that is the read. And we have many reads. We've got many riddles. We've got many mythologies that teach wisdom. We agree with the read, but it's not like the one holy commandment. Thank you for calling, Brian. We're going to do a toast with Miss Ellie. Thank
you, Brian.
And appreciate you for being our first video caller and
our first real caller. And we know the phones work because of you doing God's will. Bye. That was a pleasure. So, Miss Ellie, you see yourself on screen, and look what she's brought us. Oh, I'm so fancy.
Say to the audience and the people that are part of Hex and Hex Fest and Omen that Brian and Levi have worked for 2 solid seasons every Friday through coronavirus and really shown up with their research and their
Ellie,
fabulous conversation.
God bless you. But we're getting another phone call. I think it might be somebody important.
I'm here to
there is a heads. Oops, sorry.
offer my
Hello?
congratulations and toast, and I'm going to help them drink while we work. Bless you.
You're on air.
Hello.
Hello.
Blessed be.
Blessed be. How are you?
Doing the order, obviously.
It's Carrie. Hi.
Blessed be to everybody listening. This is the beautiful and incomparable magical Carrie Ewers, a priestess in the New Orleans Coven. Fantastic in all forms.
Blessed be.
This may not stick. Blessed be, Carrie. Hold on. I'm trying to help Ellie with her little microphone thing here.
We're doing great, Carrie. We're doing
I
amazing.
don't know if it's going to stay in now.
On the technological end of things.
We're not in charge of technology. We're here to be pretty and smart. We're pretty.
So, Carrie, how are you?
You guys are doing great. Everyone
Now
looks
can't
fabulous.
get this to go in there at all.
She can.
She can't hear anything.
Hold on 1 second, Carrie.
I am
It
doing
won't stay in
fantastic.
now. I don't know why. It was staying in.
Can you hear?
Okay, I don't need to hear.
It's fine.
Carrie can hear me.
Yeah, she can.
right?
They
Yeah,
can
Carrie
hear you,
can-
but you're only going to go.
you can hear Ellie, right,
Very
Carrie?
Sorry, we didn't know that was broken until
That's
today.
okay, but I do wanna
Carrie's
say
like, I can
this,
hear everything, even the
that Carrie
spirits.
is our beautiful coven
Even the
sister, and she is a wife.
How are you,
Yeah.
Miss Carrie?
Psycho drinker. Here's to you, sister.
I'm fantastic.
So, Carrie, did you have some questions for us this evening, my dear?
Yes, I have a question. It's so funny, real quick, watching this because we're on a little bit of a delay. So you guys are about 20, 30 seconds behind me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There is a delay if you're watching.
Well, they'll catch up. Yeah.
So you guys are about.
I can hear it.
Yeah. Well, but pretend we're not, Carrie. You've gone forward in time. You are now a time traveler.
I mean, I've been telling everyone that for years. So
They just need to listen, first of all.
My ability to bend time. I mean, I've been telling everyone that for years. So
Girl,
All right. So ask your
I
question.
can hear it in the background. What's your question, Miss Carrie?
So I had a question for you and Brian and for Miss Ellie too. We're all initiates of the glory of Alexandrian witchcraft. What are some of the challenges that everyone has faced since initiation? Because
So Ellie, Miss Carrie's question, since you can't totally hear her, is she's asking, since we're all initiates, what are some of the challenges we faced as initiates? After your initiation, what were the challenges you faced? Ellie, you want to go first?
Well, it's common, but we all know that our worlds kind of get reorganized for us after initiation. We're changing the vibration of our body and our mind. So the outer world gets shaken up to kind of display what our new role in life looks like. I had a lot of disruption moving.
Miss Carrie, if you can turn the volume down on your computer so that you're just listening to us, that they won't hear the echo in the background.
But I also loved it. It was revolutionary
Just for
in
the
my
question.
life. It was revolutionary in my life. So it was a big change, but it was also magnificent.
So like revolution, okay, got that. Brian, what was your biggest challenge post-initiation?
Being around non-initiates.
He said to me, he said no. He said to me, he said no more.
I think that you fall in love, you fall into the deep end of the pool.
It's so true.
You meet so many wonderful, magical people. Sometimes it's hard to plunge yourself back into
No, not initiate. Thank you. No, bye.
the mundane world. However, I do think it's necessary. And coming out the other side, that's not an issue for me. But I think initially it was, you go through that process. Obviously, I think everyone has their challenges. The other challenge I had was dealing with initiates on social media who, wanted to act the bully. I had to deal with that, and that doesn't represent most initiates. That represents, because most initiates would never do that.
No.
It represents a small clique of people who enjoy doing that in social media. So having to deal with that was sort of difficult. But those were probably my two big things. And I'm on the other side of that rabbit hole now. So now it doesn't really seem like much of a challenge, but at the time it did. So having to deal with that was sort of difficult. Those were probably my two
Carrie, don't forget computer, because we can hear it through the screen. Brian's just like, just get through it. Biggest challenges for initiation for me, post-initiation. It's very funny because Brian's not totally kidding.
I turned it down. I don't know what's happening.
I don't either.
I turned it down.
I don't know. I think I actually agree with Brian, even though he's kidding, kind of, about the dealing with non-initiates part. The hardest challenge for me, and I'm sure Ellie and Brian understand this, is if you live in the mundane world too, post-initiation, it gets harder and harder to sometimes interact with that.
Right.
Like when you're constantly working the rites, because we're a coven that meets weekly. This is not something we do a couple times a month or whatever. We meet weekly. And so when you're constantly working the rites and you're engaged in witchcraft and you're talking about all these things and you're doing all these things, coming back down to the real world on the daily is actually really painful sometimes and hard, and you feel detached a little bit. And so juggling that has been my biggest thing.
I think what it is, Carrie, is Levi's like a cat, because we can hear you on our earphones. He thinks that everyone can hear you.
And I believe, just so everyone can know, that Mr. Christian Day has fixed our chat. Thank you, sir.
Yes,
Blessed
thank
be.
you.
That is awesome, because I see his test
We'll
comment.
give you a chance for questions too.
Thank you. I didn't
And-
see one, but yes, I do.
Again, in all the chaos of us fixing that, thank you again, Christian, for being awesome tech support. Miss Ellie made beautiful fluted champagne filled with fruit. I feel very fancy. I love this. But Carrie, excellent question.
Did you have another question, Carrie?
I do have another question.
Yes.
I bet she's got a delay.
No, she can hear my voice right away.
My next question is, so I get to be on the premiere of season 3. Fabulous.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, we say to you.
Absolutely.
So, Carrie, just to let you know, Christian and everybody who's watching, I don't know why it's doing a little bit of an echo. It should be light. I hope it's not too distracting. It is turned down on her end and ours. So it is what it is.
That's fine.
We're powering through.
All right. Blessed be Carrie.
Blessed be Carrie. Thank you so much.
In.
It is turned down on her end and ours. So blessed be. We're powering through.
Blessed be. Blessed be. Good night.
Night. Oh. So, I mean, hey, it's working. So, yes, we have the fabulous Miss Ellie here, and we have had Miss Carrie call in. Different people from the New Orleans Coven sort of celebrating a little bit.
Works.
Our phone works, everybody. What is that? First, you know what? I was going to be so stupid. I wanted to sing that song from the Electric Company from the 70s, and then I realized this is a phone, not the Electric Company. I'm very sorry.
Got another call.
We have another caller.
Popular tonight.
We're so popular.
PR radio station fundraiser.
Are you going to answer it?
Well, Christian was doing a thing.
Well, answer it.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello. Blessed be.
Blessed be.
How are y'all doing? Y'all look so comfortable and relaxed. And congratulations on the season finale of your second season.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm feeling very Marie Antoinette right now, but I don't want to lose my head.
Blessed be St. Elias. Blessed be.
To be. So I have a couple of questions, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Please.
All right. So especially given the times that we're in, the Corona times,
Yes.
we're seeing a lot of pretty prominent teachers across the board, across traditions, switch to a more online presence, a more digital presence.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think that looks like for the future of traditions that kind of rely on meeting in person?
So, Ellie, just to summarize Mr. Sinelias' question, he's talking about in the time of coronavirus, we've had to go digital in many ways. And what does that mean in the future, like for the tradition and for sort of how we rely on things? I will answer first, and then I'll let you all go. It's a double-edged sword. I think technology should be used to connect us as much as possible moving forward. But I think, if anything, it has actually taught me the importance of working physical rights in my religion. Like the absolute cutoffness, if I can coin that I feel sometimes during this virus in my practice is really rough. So I think, if anything, it's taught me to cherish it more than it has to reform it, if that makes sense. What do you think, Brian?
Absolutely.
Well, let's let Ellie go first, because you know me.
Well, I would repeat that. I am already kind of a loner. I don't mind being at home, and I don't mind working on my projects. But with our group, a kind of fondness and deep love and respect has developed where in me, in my body, I need to see my Coven members. I need to hear their voice. I need to bow and say blessed be to my Coven mates. They are such a powerful source for me. Luckily, we have carried on online as much as we can and doing minimal to see each other. But I think don't give up the personal touch. Stay in small groups. Worship outside. There's ways around it. I don't want to become a mega church on a computer.
No. Brian?
So here's my thing. I believe this will pass. The Black Plague did. Humanity has seen much worse plagues than the coronavirus. In fact, I'm not going to get on the medical end of things, but I do not believe that the traditions of witchcraft will change at all. I don't think that operation is going to change. I think it has taught us how we can use technology more. Not so much our group, because I think we were pretty astute in it, but it has helped to some degree. I've given some online Coven lectures that I would have never have done previously. But I do think that one of two things is going to happen. Either we're going to get to the other side of the rabbit hole of this virus, or Covens are going to become extremely selective to whom they work with.
Yes.
It's kind of like if you have multiple sexual partners, you want to know where they've been and what STDs they might have. So,
wow.
It's the same kind of idea. You can exist with humanity if you trust them well enough not to expose you to things. If everyone's practicing social distancing to some degree, then you can trust them to be around you. I think most of us have been around a small group of people, whether it's our family or what have you. As a group leader, I felt very obligated to protect my community. So we did shut down for a while, as all of you know, and we have made some changes because we're trying to get to the other side of the hole.
Yes.
But I think in the long haul, if we don't get rid of this virus, I think Covens are just going to become extremely selective with who they initiate or who they work with, because they're not going to want to work with somebody who's going to possibly expose them to this.
Yep.
So that brings me to another question. For Covens that are already in operation, like ours, we know each other. We see each other so often. We talk about what we're doing outside of the Coven only to understand how much of a risk we're at to be exposed to coronavirus. But for people who are seeking initiation or seeking Alexandrian Covens who we don't know, what do you think that's one of the new challenges are going to be for people who don't have a spiritual home yet?
Well, I can jump right on that.
Because Brian's dealing with this.
I am dealing with it. I don't know if it was, I do know it was the book being published. You write a book, Initiation to Witchcraft, and people start wanting to get initiated by you. I started getting a lot of inquiries, and I still am. So there are probably about a dozen people who've approached me just flat out asking for initiation within the last few months. And unfortunately, the answer is we won't be initiating anyone this year, most likely.
Yeah.
In the future, like I said, if eventually we're we're never getting rid of this virus, then I think a new set of criteria, strict criteria, will probably get put in place. But I think we are going to get past this virus. I think through medical treatments and through possibly a vaccine or whatever, I think science is going to get us past this. What most people aren't really understanding is that, the whole world is putting everything into trying to figure this out. So that's a lot of science, and they are some very brilliant people, magicians in their own right, Unfortunately, it's very different with other viruses. The whole world didn't try to solve HIV. Let's face it, they ignored it for most of it. The whole world did not join together in solving that crisis, nor have they done so with things like cancer. But in this particular case, they have, and because everyone's been stopped and everyone's losing money.
Yeah, that's the big thing.
And nobody wants to lose money. So I do think we'll get to the other side of it, but at the moment, I think because I need to protect the initiates that I already have, and I don't know you, I'm probably not going to be initiating anyone. However, we have done online soirees, and we are doing things to keep in contact with people for the day when we do start resuming initiation.
Yes. So, I kind of think that's the perfect answer. I mean, I think that in the time period, being a seeker is going to have to require an immense amount of patience, and
get the relationship going, keep it going.
And it's going to be all about relationship building, and it's not going to be about necessarily meeting and doing ritual.
Because by the time this comes through, there's going to be long lines for every coven. You want to be the one they remember.
Exactly. You want to be the top of the applicant pile.
Yes.
Thank you, Elohim. And by the way, Elohim's saying, Ellie, you look beautiful.
Thank you, Elohim.
Make sure you speak up because you are behind
Okay,
us.
thank
What
you.
am
Thank
I,
you,
chopped
Brian.
liver?
Thank you, Levi. Thank you, Ellie, for your responses.
Thank you
I
so
agree.
much.
Thank you.
Sinalias.
Thank you, Sinalias.
Sinalias is
Yes,
one of my
please.
favorite witches, and he owns a wonderful store here in New Orleans. Crescent City Conjure. Don't know the address. Wish I would have asked him while he was
On
on
Royal Street.
Royal Street.
2402 Royal Street. Come on.
2402 Royal Street.
Look at him doing that plug.
Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
Good job. Yes.
Yes, Crescent City Conjure for all your spiritual needs. I love it.
Yes, indeed.
I wanted
All right.
to add.
Thank you
that
so
I-
much, Sinalias. Blessed be.
It's because you can't hear.
Can't hear.
Sorry.
Okay, you're good, Ellie.
We have reached a broader audience. I've been doing my little.
Getting another phone call.
We have another phone call, Ellie. I'm so
I'll
sorry.
eventually get to you.
Hello, welcome to Covendom.
International caller here
International, where from?
from Niagara Falls. This is Utu from the Dragon Ritual Drummers calling to
Hello,
say
Utu. How are
congratulations.
you doing? It's Utu.
Blessings from beyond the wall.
From beyond the wall. It's a much nicer place up north.
I wanted to just call in quick. I'm watching
You
you
might
guys.
have to get
Wanted
us
say
out someday if things
Congratulations on all the work you've been doing. Totally awesome.
Thank you
Thanks,
so much,
Utu.
you two. We love the Dragon
International
Ritual
caller.
Drummers.
So no one better
International
ruin my cool ass outside of America phone in.
You
Don't
get
want
so many
anyone from
brownie
Britain
points.
calling, right? Can't have that.
We
You
weren't
get so many
expecting
brownie
it.
points for being Canadian.
Now, Utu is the leader of the Dragon Ritual Drummers that everyone knows, and he, I'm going to forget the name of it right now, but he wrote a fabulous book about
Conjuring Mama.
Conjuring Mother. Sorry, what is it called?
Conjuring Mama. Coven.
It's about Harriet,
Harriet
Tubman,
Tubman, right?
but I can't remember the name of it. Conjuring.
Moses.
Oh, what's the name of your book, Utu?
It's called How to Get Canceled.
Oh my God. No, it's not. It's brilliant.
It's
It's
about
actually called, don't worry, it's called Conjuring Harriet Mama
Thank
Moses
you.
Tubman
Mama Moses.
and the
That's it.
Underground Railroad.
That's right.
That's all good. That doesn't matter. I
It's
wanted
just
to say
because it's a
blessings.
long name. I know what it's about, but a fabulous book, and he is the leader of the Dragon Ritual Drummers and joins us every year at Hexfest and usually in Salem for Halloween. Unfortunately, those things didn't happen. He was online for Hexfest this last year. Utu has been a part of the magical community for, God, I don't even know if I know your origin stories really, but for a very long time.
For a very long time. Your origin stories, Utu, he says to me.
Well, we're always busy when we see each other. One of these days we won't be.
But thank you so much.
Well, I wanted to say before I go that the opening ceremonies at Hexfest was really cool. And getting to see everybody patched in, holding up their waters like Ellie was, and Levi, and just everybody that was contributing to that. That was really cool. Our whole crew was sitting there watching it, so I'm sure everyone that watched that had a great time. So congratulations
Thank you.
on that, too.
It was fabulous.
Enjoy the rest of your show, guys.
And I look forward to the day we get to talk about those origin stories in person.
Yes, indeed.
We will.
Many blessings to our northern brethren.
Thank you.
Blessed be.
Bye. Oh, I love that. We're just getting so many calls. People the family, everybody. Brian loved that how to get canceled comments. I mean, Christian loved that how to get canceled comments so much.
I've canceled a few people.
Yes, Utu was a part of the opening.
I feel bad because Ellie can't hear anything anyone's saying.
I'm crashing this party anyway.
She really did. Let me
She
see
brought
that
beautiful champagne. I mean, come on.
It was sitting there
Come in
earlier.
person to support these lovely gentlemen.
Miss Ellie is a fantastic.
Well, when we knew she was coming, because we didn't know, I thought this third headset was working, and
it normally works. It's always been the one that people wear, and it's been very trustworthy. There's no reason to think it wouldn't have worked.
She got it
It's
in
magic.
here earlier. I swear there's another place to plug this in, and it's not.
That doesn't even look like the right hole. They said that on the movie. It doesn't look like the
Is there a different one it will work on?
There's not.
I swear we plugged it in somewhere else once.
One time.
Somehow. Maybe it's because I'm sitting here, but it's not working now.
Does Val know? She might know.
She's the one who got it to work earlier.
She
but
did.
It's not working now. It's not staying in there. Something's wrong.
I love how Christian just says, please stop trying. Please don't break that.
It's already broken, my dear.
You are correct. I'm worried as well. I'm worried as well.
It's probably him.
Okay, we do have a caller. It might be him. Hi, welcome to Covendom.
Hello. This is Anne.
Hi, Anne. Blessed be.
Blessed be.
Blessed be.
Anne.
It's Anne. Ellie's waving.
Hi,
Anne.
I love
Hi.
how I'm describing
Thanks
that.
for
like
calling
she
in.
can see.
Did you have some questions for us this evening?
I do. You know, I looked back through the shows and I actually asked family and friends what they thought about witchcraft. What if they had 3 questions to ask a high priest, what would you ask? What would they be? And it really does fall along with the things that you have been discussing.
Mm-hmm.
What they said to me were things we've already talked a little bit tonight about, ethics. What does it mean? Can you do something if it's justified? Can you do a spell if it's for justice? And some of the other things were actually around one of my favorite episodes on monotheism. They said, what about God? And actually,
We have our own God.
somebody said, what would I ask a witch priest? I'd ask them the same thing as any priest. What is God? Why? Why 2020? Why me? Why am I here? What is my purpose in life?
So,
I mean,
question first part, can you do spells for justice? Question second part, what is God to us?
Right.
Starting small. I love how Anne came in very small.
Anne went straight for the
Can you
kill.
work justice and
Can
is
you
there
work
a God?
justice and who's God?
And who's God?
This is why we love Anne. You guys go first.
Okay, Ellie, can you work spells for justice? Make sure to speak up loud so they can hear you.
Absolutely. I think justice is a great reason to work spells for it. As a matter of fact, I think universal laws are really important for spell working. They should be the foundation of any magic one undertakes. And what are universal laws? Depending on your religion, they could be the 10 Commandments. They could be the threefold return law. But I think it's important to always seek balance, justice, fairness, hearing from the group, and collective understanding and collective decision making.
Mm-hmm.
So I think justice is one of the top reasons I might do magic.
Yeah.
Right.
I do think you can do magic for justice, but I will add a caveat to what Ellie said. I think it's some of the most difficult magic to do, and I think if you're going to do justice magic, you better be ready to actually do justice magic. Because if you're asking the gods, if you're asking the divinity within all existence to make things just, I hope that you have a clean slate. Because if you're invoking that and you've done wrong, or you're on the wrong side of this issue or whatever, you're going to have an issue. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to come out against you. So I think doing justice work requires an immense amount of introspection and an immense amount of sort of purification of self and righteousness. Like, you have to have some concept of where you are and why you're doing what you're doing. Or I think you could end up setting yourself on fire a little bit.
True.
So I'm going to interrupt for one quick second. Christian, stop worrying about the headset and the hole. I'll explain later. There's nothing there to put it into. Anyway, like it literally doesn't. It's just, I think something fell out of that.
And I told him I messaged, I'll tape it up so we don't worry about it.
Anyway, Ellie, do you want to answer you already answered the justice part. God, you guys do the God part first.
What is God to us? I think I can really recommend that you watch our episode on witchcraft mythology, or you watch the one we did on monotheism. God to us means many things. To witchcraft, predominantly, we worship a god and a goddess, but we are also monotheistic in a way. We're sort of seeing the divine unity within all of life.
It's the delay.
Yeah, but I think that's a really important part of our religion, is understanding this dance between viewing God in this demiurgic way of God and goddess, and then coming back to the oneness, and then going out to the two and back and over. And it's sort of like this exchange between many and one that I think is very beautiful.
Right.
Ellie, how do we find God?
What is God, Ellie?
What is God?
I have two distinct answers. The first, Levi touched on this. The first would be the one in Neoplatonic thought, the source of life, of consciousness, prior to the making of the universe, the one. To me, that's God, Godhead. But the reason I don't use the word God for that, I say the universe or the one, is because personally, the God is the male polarity deity that springs forth from the Godhead, along with the female goddess polarity, and those two together form all of known reality. And so that God is a male personified being. Sometimes it's Pan, sometimes it's Apollo, but it definitely takes that male form. And I view that separately than I do the one or the source, but many people would call that God.
Yes.
Right. So I think more God of the polarity gendered male deity. My favorite.
Yeah, it's like using the word God for separate things.
So justice. I think if you're doing justice in purity, that's harmless. If you're doing it with pure thoughts and pure intentions, I think where people get into trouble is when they start deciding they're the judge, jury, and executioner. That's when what Levi says comes into play. Then you have to worry about, you're not. And so the things that you're invoking and the forces that you're invoking will decide what's just. However, if you go into it with pure intentions and you're trusting the divine to decide if that person is innocent or guilty, then you realize if they're innocent, nothing will happen. If they're not innocent, something will happen. If you go into it understanding you don't know, I think some people like to use the slogan of justice in the sense of that they want to justify harming people for righteous reasons. I'm not saying that there isn't ever a righteous reason to harm, because sometimes there is in self-defense, or, most people would say if you knocked Hitler off, it probably, most people wouldn't call you out about it or say, you're going to get bad karma, you killed Hitler. I don't think that that's probably a conversation most people would have. There are forces and archetypes that you can call on. So it's a wide-ranging thing, justice. Justice is supposed to be basically, like, if you're talking in a spiritual sense, you're talking about karma, right? That what comes around is going to go around. The universe is somehow going to make things right. If you're coming at that law purely, well, then things are going to take care of themselves anyway, so why do they need you? But sometimes I think that there are times when the witch does have to invoke justice. But I think wisdom has to be the guiding light to that. Wisdom, not emotion, and not self-righteousness. Now, as far as God, I love this old movie, We Have Our Own God. In a sense, I believe all gods are one God, all goddesses are one goddess. So I could say to somebody, I believe in the same God as you. But because we personify gods in a lot of ways to our cultural philosophies or our ideals, I don't think my God is the same God President Trump supposedly worships, because his ideals and his thought forms towards that thing is definitely not my God, So it depends on how you come at it. If you come at it at a universal idea that, anyone who's looking to God is looking to God, but people are often looking at gods and goddesses through their own lens and not a divine one, in which case they're very different. I prefer nature as my lens to the divine,
which can be terrifying too.
So I guess I would say, it depends on who you're talking to and how much you want to say, But I think that one of the biggest questions I ran into early on by innocent Christians or innocent non-occultists who were not like having a chip on their shoulder, they would be like, but don't you believe in God, or do you believe in God? And they really don't get it when you say, well, yes, but he's very different than yours. Sometimes you should just say, yes, we do, but we also believe in a goddess. We believe God has a wife. We don't believe he's, we believe if he needs to have a sexual genitalia, then he's probably not celibate.
Valid. But yes, I love that Anne's coming in hot with the questions. Everybody else is like,
we love
what
it,
do you think? And Anne's like,
question.
What's justice? Who's God? Like, damn, girl.
And she got this from people she knew, which is great.
I know. Thank you for going out and asking
my
that, Anne.
friends ask me.
I love that, Anne.
Very good.
Anne is surveying the people.
Thank you so much for calling in. See you soon. Blessed be.
See you
My
soon.
pleasure. Blessed
Anne.
be.
Blessed be. This phone thing, I'm mastering it. I feel like I could run like a...
We've never gotten calls.
I know, but tell me I could not be an operator in 1962. Hold,
you
please.
could.
But
Like,
the audience can hear the speaker.
Yes.
They can hear you, yes.
Okay. But they
Something's
can hear
buzzing.
who's calling.
it's my phone.
Oh,
But yes.
I got like really like, I was like, something's buzzing.
No.
We're table tipping now.
We're table tipping. Everybody put your hands...
This is the
It's Uncle somebody. Lisa said, it's what I tell the Jehovah's Witnesses. I believe in God. I just don't believe he's a single parent. We're getting another call.
We got a call.
Hi, welcome to Covendom.
Hello.
Hello.
This is very exciting. I love you guys so much.
Aw, we are popular. I love me too. Who are
He's
you?
humble. Who's calling?
My name is Max. I went to New Orleans a couple months ago, like just before New Year's, and I got to meet Ellie just before. Like I walked into Hex and I got to meet Ellie, and I went to Omen. I met Carrie. It was amazing. And then I got to go into Hex, and I saw Levi reading, and I'm still kicking myself that I never got to go in and say hello because I was anxious.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine, Max. Do you have a question?
Oh, Max!
Oh, Ellie remembers you. Look how excited she is.
Of course we remember you. You came in and you were so adorable. You looked for Carrie and I at Hex, and you saw us, and you were just so gorgeous. You were fans, and we loved meeting you. And we follow you. We see you on Facebook and Instagram. You're the cutest one.
Look at Miss Ellie.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?
So, Max, did you have a question before Brian goes down a
Yes.
Wicked Witch
So,
thing?
She said he was the cutest one of all.
He's adorable, and he's very sincere, and he's young and
I
new.
promise, Max, I'm listening.
It's a different one.
So you usually work with 13 members in the Coven. That's like traditional number. Is that like truth?
I'll let Brian answer that in a way
how
that
it works.
we can be more careful. I will say there is...
Oh, come on. You know how to answer that.
I do. Traditionally, it is, Doreen talks about this in the Witch's Creed and in a lot of things. 13 is a sacred number. It was associated with the amount of moons in a year, 12 for each month and 1 for the blue moon.
I didn't think to do that earlier. Can you hear?
The deeper answer to this question, though, is I don't like when people get super hung up on the number as if 13 is some numerological mystery, although there might be in that too, but that's something we're going to keep initiatory, I would say. What I would argue is it's important to remember that covens remain small for a reason. It's not so much because we need some sort of mystical perfect number, so much as it is we don't want to be, as Ellie joked earlier, the mega church online. We work with with polarity, we work with other people. And so having that connection requires that it remains somewhat small. If you get too large and you lose any sort of real connection between the members, how are you going to build the trust that you need to build power? Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course.
So Ellie didn't hear the question, but the question was, is it real that we only have 13 members in a coven?
It's very real, up to 13, right? Some covens could start with 2 people, and then 3 and 4. But you're right, once you cross really the threshold of 13, everything becomes more distant, more difficult.
And think about like the space. We use space a lot. We use our bodies in magic, and that's not spilling any secrets. I mean, like we use the body, we use the space. It's a practiced ritual. It's a practiced rite. If you can't do that because you have so many people, then I think you're going to lose a little bit of the spark.
So there's two schools of thought to the 13-member coven. Obviously, historically speaking, we hear mention of it only a few times in witch trials and what have you, though there are many examples within folklore and mythology. So the two main schools of thought are it's a demonic bastardization of the 12 disciples in Christ. And the other school of thought is that it's from the old matriarchal lunar year when before the Julian calendar was put into place, that there were 13 months. In other words, every month was literally based on the 28-day moon cycle, which is really 29.5, but that's only because that calendar is counting the new moon. But the old matriarchal people wouldn't have counted the new moon as a day because the moon wasn't showing. So the 28-day cycle. So the moons, the months were counted by the moon, and it was a lunar cult. Witchcraft was a lunar cult. So every person within the coven stands for a station of the sacred wheel, and the sacred wheel of the year is the circle. So only 13 people can be in the circle representing those powers. Otherwise, it becomes too big, right? So that's what we go by. It's a lunar cult, and that's why we assemble in covens of 13, is because there are 13 years in the moon before we really understood how the sun works, right?
Yeah.
Nowadays, we've got 12 moons in a year, sometimes 13, which we call the 13th a blue moon in modern folklore, because with our new calendar, it's not perfect even now. So we can't account for that extra moon. So that was early counting and how we counted things, but that is why we do it. So I think on the practical side, what they were saying is it depends on the coven that you are running. Some covens prefer to have only 8 members because they don't even want to go as far as 13, but 13 is the maximum number that most covens will have.
Yes.
Yeah. And of course, because I'm only 16, so I have a while before I can legally be initiated. And if I could, I would go down to New Orleans right now, and I would do my best to impress you and become a priest. But in the meantime, as a seeker, would you suggest trying to find another ad hoc coven before I can find a true Alexandrian lineaged coven?
Well, my advice, and I'll let these guys join in. Obviously, I'm ripping it off the first, but Levi knows when I get an instant thing, I'm just going to go.
Yeah.
I think at 16 you don't really need to be in a coven, and I understand wanting to. What I would say you should do is, if you are going to start a coven at 16, do it with your peers. Don't go to any older people that want a 16-year-old in their coven.
Is a hard pass.
Don't do it. It's weird. Even if they're something else and not doing naked or anything, I think it's sort of a strange thing. When I was your age, what I did is I assembled a group of friends and we did circles together. And I called it my coven because I've always been arrogant. But I wasn't initiated yet. And that's what we did. And we did our best and fumbled around the rituals. But even then, I think we were sincere. Some of us were sincere to the old gods. And there was some real raw power being worked with, even though we had no training at all, because we were sincere and young and full of life. But I would say, I started around your age, but I didn't get first initiated until I was 19 years old, because my first priestess, who I met at 17, wouldn't even start preparing me for initiation until I was 18 because of certain things that you're well aware of. Yeah. And the way they did things in that group was a little different than how we do things in Alexandria. So they had a year and a day before the initiation would take place, but you were already working with them. So she didn't want to work with anyone who wasn't 18, just safeguarding, a mother with very young children at the time. So I would say personally for me, I have had younger people in my coven before, but it's really hard because you're still developing your mind, and you might change your mind and decide to go become a Hinduist in 3 years, which is fine, fabulous. You're exploring. So I'd let yourself explore and realize that being a priest is no different than if you told me right now you want to go become a doctor. They're not going to let you do that at 16 either. So if it's really your calling, you'll do it when the time is right.
Yes.
Miss Ellie?
Well, and I think you have a great spark, Max. You're adorable. You know that. And you had a great
Thank you.
You had a great thirst. You were very sincere. You were very excited to come to the shop and meet people that you'd seen online. There are still some basic things that all witches and coveners do. Anyway, we meditate every day. We keep our magical journal. We set up little altars where we give thanks to our gods. We show devotion. We all do those simple practices all the time. We pay attention to the moon. We choose some sort of service for our community where we can volunteer. You can start to do all of those things on your own or with a small group and begin to practice using your mind and your heart in a religious way. And then when you get ready and you find high-quality people, you're bringing something to the group. You're bringing something to the work. You've already been doing the personal work. And believe me, there's plenty of personal work to be done. So all that can happen. And then you can begin to do some magical requests to the universe, saying, bring me my opportunities, bring me my people, let the doors open for me. I'm doing work, and I'm asking for some reassurance. I think that's the way most of us get into it, right? Mm-hmm. We start on our own, and then we find something, the door opens.
I'll say this. If you are really interested in sort of working with a group down the road, the biggest thing that you'll have to sell them when you do come of age is that you kept the faith that long. Because, Brian is right about one thing. We change a lot when we're young. Somebody's joking that Brian passed me champagne. Actually, he was giving me the strawberry out of it because I like them. To Max, I'm saying basically, like, that is an argument you will have if you are 16 now and interested in witchcraft and you wait 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years down the road and you're still interested in it. That's a story in and of itself that will show commitment. Whereas, a lot of people who come to us, they've only been interested in witchcraft for 4 months, let alone 4 years.
Or they just want to join a coven. I want to join a coven.
Or they just want to join a coven. But if you're showing it at 16, that's impressive. But I like Ellie's advice. I like Brian's advice. I might add this, which is working on meditation and mindfulness will actually mold you better to do the practice than anything you're going to learn in another coven. So if you can focus on that, sort of focus on training of the mind, looking at traditional resources, watch any of our shows. We talk about them all the time. I'm not going to go into it here, but that's really sort of what you will do the most. And keep the faith. Like Ellie said, opening up the mind religiously, right, to the experience of the divine. The more you do that, the more ready you will be.
If you're very lonely and you feel that you need to work with other people and experiment with rituals, try to find somebody or a couple people of your own age. Don't go to some weird guru on the internet or try to join a coven right now, because you're not going to. Anyone who's going down, they probably want money or something. I would just have fun with it, read books, talk to people. How we're available as a resource is not only through our web pages and what have you, but you can ask us questions and we'll answer it, or we do shows like this. We'll answer the questions. Obviously, there's some things we won't be able to unveil to you, not because they're secrets, but because they're mysteries. We can answer any question. If you believe in the goddess and the horned god, and you are a magical person, then you will have no choice but to continue walking down this path. And don't apologize for being 16. I'd trade places with you right now. If
He would. He would actually steal the life force from you, if that were an option. And drain it from you like a movie.
So that
you would wake up white-haired and screaming, and it would just be
Ellie's
Brian,
only 16,
useful and perfect.
Ellie's only 16 years old, everyone.
But thank you, Max, for your wonderful questions.
Did that work?
And trust us, the gods will find you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Have a wonderful day.
Come back anytime
You
and
too.
see us.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Max.
See, I am like the operator where I'm just hi, welcome to Bell South. Can I help you?
Hogwarts.
I love this for you.
Welcome to I'm the operator at Hogwarts.
At Hogwarts.
I think I would have a little bit of a better job than working the phone lines.
It's really funny how we went through 2 seasons, like never got any phone calls. And we got like a lot of calls. We were like a lot of these. Well,
Can I also say it's partially our fault because I have looked back and people will ask for the number and we're so oblivious that we don't even give it again. We give it once in the beginning and never again.
The number is 504-321-3472. I
feel like the voice is not necessary.
Blonde Bombshell.
No, that is not your screen name tonight, buddy.
Can I go back before I forget and answer one more part of Cineliza's question that I thought strongly about?
Sure.
It was about how the coronavirus pandemic had sort of altered our ability to...
Just answer it and put them on hold.
Keep it in your mind.
Fine.
Hi, Avon calling. Who is this? Oh, okay, fine. No, like, how dare you?
They really thought it was Avon.
I know. I'm sorry if you just called.
And I did see Trace today for some training, and I told him, look at the schedule, make sure you call. So
he's trying to loosen you up.
He knew that. He knew that.
Far too late.
So back to my idea. I wanted to say 2 things.
Ellie, you do not get to ask anything.
You'll eventually get your day.
I'm the reason the phone's ringing.
Hi, welcome to Covendom.
Blessed be everyone. I thought that I actually called Avon and I hung up.
Oh my God, no. That is not true.
Is that true?
I can't have any fun. Blessed be.
Blessed be. Congratulations on another season down. And I'm calling in with 2 questions.
He has 2 questions.
My first question is, if you could go back to when you were a new initiate, what is one thing you would tell yourself, or a piece of advice that you would give?
Girl, run. That'd be the first thing. I'd be like, get out of the house. The calls are coming from in the house. They're already there. Like, no. First thing I would tell myself, if I could talk to myself right when I was starting to get initiated, is here's the funny thing, I wouldn't tell myself a damn thing.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't tell myself a damn thing because I wanted and needed to experience all of this exactly how it happened. So I would not want to prep for any of it.
I would probably go back to my younger self and say, darling,
moisturize.
Just move to England. Just move to England. Just go to England and be in England. No, I agree with Levi. I honestly think that my teacher, Miss Val Hughes, said that people get the initiation they deserve. You know, and it's a dual meaning there, obviously. Yeah. Alexandrian folk tongue. Yeah. Everything happens not everything happens for a reason, but you can make a reason out of anything that happens. I think that on the path of initiation, you know, you're asking for transformation, you're asking for change from wherever you are at that moment, right? And I do believe very strongly that the magic begins to work when you sincerely have decided you're going to ask.
Yeah.
I don't think the magic starts working just when you ask or just when the ritual takes place or not even 2 months after the ritual takes place. I believe that when you really have already settled fate and you've decided you're going to ask, the universe knows what's going to happen in the next few steps. It's already begun to work itself. You've already taken the path of initiation and it's already a process. So it's going to be very unique and different for everyone. So questioning why it happened the way it does for you on retrospect is like, well, you know, yes, I wish I would have been afforded certain opportunities like living in England, but those weren't the opportunities I was afforded. However, I was blessed in so many other ways, and it was coming from where I asked for it in the journey that I began just a few years ago. So, no, I wouldn't change anything either. Not really. Not now. Because it all came outside of the rabbit hole looking back. And I'm priesthood now, and I'm very thankful to be a part of a priesthood that I cherish. So how could I reflect negatively on that?
Ellie, what would you tell pre-initiatory Ellie?
Wow. I feel like it's falling in love. It's falling in love with your true heart. It's falling in love with your true will. It's falling in love with the universe. And I do recommend not overanalyzing that. Trust and let it happen. I probably, just like Brian and Levi, would not do anything over all of the years of study and practice in various ways. They all come together at the right time in the right way. And it is like falling in love. Your heart just bursts open. And talking about it or reorganizing it probably isn't that effective. Just allow to be living in the love.
However, Master Yoda does have some advice. You must unlearn all that you have learned.
Right.
Deep. I love it. Did you have another
Master
question?
Yoda's never wrong.
I think that you're right. The gods definitely guide us to where we need to be. Yeah, my second question is, what do you think has been the most surprising discovery you've made as an Alexandrian? So what has surprised you the most?
Brian?
What surprised me the most? The power.
I was just saying that in my mind.
The power. I've been a witch for a very long time, but there is a crackling power within this tradition that I don't think is always accessible to everyone else in the same way. And I will say crackling power, electric, charged. I'm not saying it's the most powerful, but the way that the power comes through. The other thing that I think I am surprised about is the fact that it's a living culture and not just, you read about it when you're younger. I first came across the Alexandrian tradition. I think I was probably around 19 years old, maybe 18. Books, didn't mean anything to me at the time, but I kept reading them. They kept popping up. Oh, these people are really interesting looking, right? And I knew very early on I either wanted to be Gardnerian or Alexandrian. They were the cool ones. But actually becoming a part of it and meeting people that lived the history of that and learning the stories and learning the practices and realizing that there are people that are alive today that were alive then and how much of a living tradition it has been passed on, and that's something that's organic and oral and experiential. You couldn't get it from a book. Not even the Book of Shadows. Couldn't get it from any book. I think being plugged into that sort of heritage was something I've never encountered before. So that was it.
Ellie, what surprised you?
I was thinking about power the moment it came out of Brian's mouth. I've done group work in a variety of settings for a long time, not in a coven. And in our particular group, the seriousness of the people, the dedication of the people, the power really does crackle in the air when we get going and we work together. And then for me too, how much I love my group. I love these people. They're my best friends. They're my soulmates. They're my brothers and sisters. I didn't expect that. I wasn't even going into it for that
We're not
reason.
your friends, Ellie.
Yes, you are.
Yes.
You love me.
Look, I love how she always does that. Yes, you do. You love me.
In a different way. That's what I want to say, though. It's a different level of connection.
Yes, I like that you...
It's better than friends or family. We love you like an initiate.
It's better than friends and family. It's a beautiful...
If I love you like an initiate, that's better than how I love my friends and family.
Right?
Trust me, it is.
Right.
So I agree with Ellie. I'll sum it up very simply so that it's not long-winded. What surprised me the most? What I'm capable of.
Immense cruelty.
Yeah, no. No. What surprised me the most? What I am
verbal abuse online.
Actually capable of, which I don't know if I would have known otherwise.
Power. Yes. Thank you so much for calling in, Trace. Blessed
Thank you. Blessed be.
Blessed be. Have a great evening. He actually thought it was Avon. What if Avon's just my craft name? You don't know.
Do you think he was joking?
No, he hung up because he thought he called the wrong number.
I told you.
Like, what if I'm just Lord Avon when I'm not here? You don't know.
Avon calling.
What if I'm Lord Avon, righteous of the skin so soft? You know
I used
what
to answer. Thank you for calling Taco Bell.
I'm not okay with this. No, shut it down. Shut it down right now. Shut it down.
Going to miss my taco
Shut
flavor,
it down.
please.
Shut it down right now.
Phone ringing.
The phone's ringing again. Hi, welcome to Covendom.
I'm not okay with this. Shut it down.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Who's this?
Blessed be.
Blessed be.
Blessed be.
It's tech support, everybody.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Chrissy Days, everyone. Chrissy Days called. Yay.
Blessed be Christian.
Blessed be Christian.
Oh, there really is a lag between them. I'm watching the
There
voice
is a lag,
on the-
yes. But not between us. We're connected.
I know. I wish I had better headset, but I don't. I can't get it to work.
Did you have a question?
Yes. Can you please stop trying to stick that microphone?
We addressed this. I sent you a message.
The video is very delayed from what's actually happening. So by the time you started commenting, I wasn't anywhere.
I'd already messaged you and everything.
Oh.
There's literally nothing there. But let's move on with a magic question.
What's your magical question?
Well, is it a magical or a spiritual? Or...
Either way.
Well, my question is, how do we find ways to build bridges in the initiatory community when it seems so fractured and that people don't really respect priesthood?
We don't.
In certain corners.
That's why the craft has autonomy. There's nothing in our teachings or within the Book of Shadows that tells you need to build any sort of community within the craft. Every coven is autonomous. You get your upline. If you've got a good relationship with them, you can circle with them. But there's no model in the craft for this broader community. That comes from neo-paganism, which they're not doing it well either.
No.
Things that have been said about witches in Alexandrian craft, they're a quarrelsome lot. They're like trying to herd cats. These are things that have been said. Witchcraft is meant to be in small groups. We can come together in large groups at times of need or celebration, but we are not meant to exist. Did he hang up?
It might have been a tech issue.
Oh.
But we can keep answering.
Well, anyway, call back, Christian. But we don't need to have the broader community. I don't believe in it. Now, as a tradition, I think it's great to have those connections of the bishops, as Levi likes to say. It's great for high priesthood to sort of have this, they know who's who, be on good relations. That keeps the integrity of the tradition together.
Welcome back, Christian.
But there shouldn't be an Alexandrian community or a Gardnerian community or witchcraft community. It's the death knell of it. I think why we've survived so long, the reason why Alexandrian and Gardnerian craft have survived is because of the good working covens that are doing the work. That's it. That's the only reason.
And I would add on to that it's actually kind of against the teachings in a very serious way to be really obsessed with that. So, if somebody is trying to argue, our religion survived, flourished, and became powerful because it had these cells of power. And there's going to be fraction, there's going to be disagreement or whatever. We need to learn how to respect each other as initiates. But if people break that or whatever, that can be dealt with behind scenes. But what we don't want is the community with a capital C. And I know Christian came with this question loaded like a Winchester rifle anyway.
Never.
Just cocked, loaded, and ready to go. But actually...
Oh, I had another part of that question.
Oh, of course you do.
You get more than one.
You do get more than one. But my answer to you, Christian, is I love what Brian said. It's the death knell of the community. If we want to zap the magic of initiatory craft, all we have to do is start acting like neo-pagans.
Look what's going on online. It's a cannibal fest. It's initiates attacking initiates, and it's horrible. Go to your circles. That's where it belongs. If it's not in your circle, it's no one's business. Now, the broader tradition we have an obligation to, and I think that's about the bishops having a good relationship. But as the Book of Shadows says, if they can't have a good relationship, then both get hints.
Yeah.
The craft must ever survive. There's no pope. There's no check and balance that way. The broader community is about actually initiated high priests and high priestesses being able to have some sort of collaboration with each other at times.
But limited. It's very limited.
Okay, it's not...
We're not all meeting, it's just not a thing.
If you get along with your upline or you get along with your downline and you're all high priesthood, you can build really strong bonds, and that has power in it, but it's not governance. You're in charge of your coven, they're in charge of their coven, period, end of story.
Ellie, did you want to add anything?
There's a history in Rosicrucian history and Freemasonry history where initiates of those two groups don't discuss each other. They don't tell who the other people are. They might move from city to city to do work for whatever they need.
In other words, each lodge is autonomous.
Each lodge is autonomous. They may have a handshake and a word that they can answer on their behalf, but there was a lot of separation for political reasons. You just couldn't really meet safely. You couldn't organize because it was sort of outlier, religions or spirituality.
And both of these things have survived.
They have, and really,
these orders that do this have survived. Why do you think that all these traditions you see in the neo-pagan world fizzle out in a
because they're not doing the work
they don't
privately.
pass on. Because it's, I've made this tradition, here's all my rituals.
Well, and they're fighting over it.
Yes.
And they're fighting over it, yeah. What was your second part, Christian?
So my second part is, excuse me, can you still hear me?
Yeah.
So my second part is, recently I heard from an initiate that there was this goal among some that all of the various traditions of Gardnerian and Alexandrian become unified under one sort of umbrella of Gardnerian and Alexandrian. And the argument was that there are certain traditions or lines, rather, lineages of Gardnerian that are as different from one another as Alexandrian is from these various Gardnerians. So, the idea is, well, if Alexandrian's just another corner, well, this was what was said to me. So, anyway,
I can answer you this as a Coven leader. Anyone who wants to try to sweep me under their umbrella is not going to succeed. I've got my upline, I've got Val Hughes, I've got Maxine Sanders, I've got the Alexandrian elders that I respect. They know who they are. If they called me up for a favor or whatever, it would matter to me. But my coven is autonomous. I don't belong under anyone else's authority. And I certainly don't belong to any greater community. I think most good trained coven leaders have the same opinion. I find normally that the people who are going on like this don't run covens. That's why they're online trying to control things.
This wasn't about a unity of covens. This was about the label of the tradition.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Well, there's a lot of diversity between Gardnerians and Alexandrians, yes.
But I also want to say, Christian, that historically, we tried this with the Algard tradition, and it's been a thing. Anytime in a religion, let's look at this in a broader perspective. Anytime religious groups have tried to unify by breaking down their differences, it has failed. And it sounds good on paper, and it sounds good to be like, let's all be one, and isn't unity great? Actually, it's not. It usually ends up hurting people's feelings and watering down teachings. So, the best example of this is what they call, I've talked about this before, the unifying movement of Christianity. It's a thing where Protestant state churches, usually in Europe and America and Canada, are trying to unify even when historically they were radically different on very important things. So Calvinists and Lutherans, for example. And they've tried to create these very bland unity churches. So in France now, you don't have Calvinists and Lutherans anymore. You have the United Protestant Church of France. Nobody goes to their damn churches. It's the most boring whitewashed religion on earth. They basically obliterated everything that made themselves special to hurt nobody's feelings, and what came out of it was a big old soup of nothing. And this happens anytime people try to do this. Anytime you say, some idiot comes out and says, it's not our differences, it's our unity. That's real sweet, but it does not work. You have to celebrate the unique ability of somebody to gain power and grow it and seed it and celebrate it in a tradition. If you try to wipe that out, it fails.
What do you say to the person that says, well, this line of Gardnerian and this line of Gardnerian are actually more different than your Alexandrian is from one of them?
That's fine.
They're not wrong.
Yeah, lines are different. Big damn deal.
The American Gardnerian lines are... Our Alexandrian line has more in common with British Gardnerians than British Gardnerians have in common with American Gardnerians. That's true. It's in my book.
So their argument is, why not call ourselves Gardnerians? I don't agree with it. I'm just
we are more like British Gardnerians. The American Gardnerians aren't like anyone else.
And the lines being very different are, I would say to the person that you're talking about, Christian, if I was talking to them to their face, I'd be like, well...
First of all, that individual's a complete idiot.
Well, there's also that. But if I didn't want to go there...
By his own line.
I would be like, if I didn't want to go there, I'd be like, well, it's just... It's
First
just
of all,
not.
anyone who belongs to a Facebook bully group for years and years and years and isn't even running their own coven and is talking and talking and talking about unification between traditions is an idiot.
And here's what I would ask, Christian. Is that person more active in an actual lineage coven, or are they active in groups? Like neo-pagan groups, Facebook groups, meetups, pagan moods? If that's what they're going to anyway, then they're not really doing the sort of work of the initiate.
Oh, that person's not doing anything. There is a small fringe of people, and I say this as somebody I do have a social media presence. There are some people, however, and I fell into that for a brief period of time, not in the bullying sense, but that was like their whole stick.
It is their religion, yeah.
And that's where they're getting their rocks off. It's not maybe they go to Coven, I don't know, but I don't think they're doing what we're doing, because once you get into the magic, that all becomes really passe.
Yeah, and I think we have to celebrate our unique lines, and I think
yes, it's not
history will bear it out.
I have a feeling that person thinks they know more than they really do.
Ellie, I feel like we're leaving you out.
Well, I don't know the answer to this. You guys are much more educated in terms of lineages and covens and separate covens. But I know that I looked for a particular kind of witchcraft experience, coven experience, for a long time. I had some ideas that I thought Gardnerian or Alexandrian might be a good path for me. I kept looking, I kept talking, I kept looking, I kept talking, and I finally found my way into the very most perfect thing for my own practice and my own beliefs. But I like the differences. I don't want to combine with other witchcraft.
No, I don't want to combine them.
I have no interest in practicing any semblance of the American Gardnerian lines. It doesn't resonate with me, and I've highlighted why in my book. Now, that being said, if it was my only option, I would.
Yes, same.
Meaning if I had no other initiatory option, I would initiate into those lines. I'm not knocking their validity. Right. I'm not knocking their power, but it's my least favorite on the tree as far as their philosophies. They don't quite match up to mine. However, they align more with mine than everything else.
Exactly. Does that answer it somewhat, Christian?
They're still a part of our big family tree. But the thing about families is we're related to lots of families. And how many of them have you met?
Before you answer that, Christian, the best way I can say this is it's like the opening line of Anna Karenina. It's one of the most famous opening lines in all of literature. And I'm going to botch it probably because it's been a while since I've read it. But it opens up with, all happy families are boring and the same, but all unhappy families are unique and special in their own ways. My
answer to that person was that if we were going to unify under any sort of umbrella, the umbrella should not be Gardnerian or Alexandrian, but witchcraft. And the answer to that was, well, how do we differentiate from other people using the word? And I simply said, use it more.
But see, I don't
the
understand
whole conversation's irrelevant. Yeah,
we don't do that.
The entire conversation makes no sense. We're from my periphery. My periphery says no. We don't. There is no structure in Gardnerian or Alexandrian craft where anyone unifies under anything.
There's no super umbrella.
The only time that happened is with our witch king Alexander's. I suppose if we elected a king or queen of the witches who's going to rule over all of us, we could come up with something like that. And the Americans sure have tried, but we're not doing that. So it's seen its day. We are autonomous. There's never going to be. I prophesy this as sure as I prophesy that the goddess is real. There will never be a time when there's a real unification within the craft.
And I'll say this, I'll accept a witch king if I'll accept another witch king or somebody to rule over all of witchcraft if they agree to throw themselves off the cliffs of Dover after 7 years of ruling.
That's all they have to do.
Yeah.
That's not enough for me.
No, I mean literally though. There can be no escape.
I need more than just that.
No, you're missing my point. Is no, I'm not going to accept anybody.
There'd be lots of people that would do it if they just had to kill themselves.
Wouldn't. People are afraid. But Christian, I see your point. But the thing is the people who are talking to you about this are missing the point of the way we organize craft. They've missed something important, and I can't help it.
The fact that this is an initiate even thing. This is this online mind going on from somebody who doesn't understand craft. And based on what you've talked about this person, even though they've been initiated in someone's basement, I don't think they understand the craft the way that I understand it, or the way that I know many high priesthood to understand.
It's coven based. There is no super umbrella. Is that good?
There's too many of us who wouldn't want to be under it.
No.
Anyway, thank you for calling.
Yes,
Kristen.
thank you
Blessed
so
be.
much. Blessed be.
Blessed
be. Bye. No, I hate that whole concept of like we're going to unify the
Should call
church.
people idiots, but I didn't name names. So it's
You didn't.
right?
And also,
Just
to those of you who are watching, who might think this is a little esoteric, because I will say, if I was watching this show and I knew nothing,
They can call and ask questions. It's not our fault you guys never call us.
No, not my point.
Ooh, look what I've
We
done.
got another call. Welcome to Covendom.
Hello, this is Alexander.
Hi, how are you?
You say that like
I'm
we
doing
should
good.
know who you are.
Maybe it's from beyond the grave.
Alexander Sanders. No,
No.
the Alexanders.
How are you, Alexander?
I'm doing well. I have a question
New
for all
York
three of you.
Alexander.
What is
I'm
your
sorry,
question,
Hold
Alexander?
on, I'm trying to ask a question. Is this New York
Oh.
Alexander?
Time and time again, you guys have emphasized that the priesthood, ultimately at the end of the day, is a lifetime of service. What are some of the biggest services and sacrifices that you have made? And what sacrifices do you believe that seekers should be prepared to make?
Well, okay. So there's a difference here. So the biggest thing that I want to emphasize with anyone, and that Levi has many times, I know Ellie would too, and they will when their own thing. So you are entering a priesthood, right? But just like any priesthood, there are different stages, there are different commitments. You know, the guy who goes and becomes a monk and joins a monastery is not under the same obligation than somebody who becomes a bishop or a cardinal. Don't have the same responsibilities, I guess you could say. So it depends on what order, what coven you're entering into. The oaths, however, are always the same. And in Alexandrian craft, we do not bind anyone for life when they are first initiated. So they are free to go if it doesn't work out. You know, would prefer if they didn't try to monetarily gain on it after so, especially, you know. Leave, don't try to get money off of it afterwards. I hate that. I hate it when people say, oh, you know, I bumped into Aleister Crowley once, and I'm going to talk about it for the rest of my life and sell you a poster for $9.99. You know, it's sort of obvious. But spiritually speaking, when you're a first degree, if you come in and you find out that it doesn't, you know, let's say you've been in the coven for 2 years, and you decide, you know, I don't want to serve as a priest, or I don't want to be in this coven anymore, or, you know, I've got to go take care of my mom that has cancer and I can't do this right now. Whatever the case may be, you might have to withdraw. Our idea is that you could always come back, but it's okay if you withdraw. So we're not really looking to a seeker to be like, you know, hey, we want proof that you're going to chain yourself down to life. What we're looking for in a seeker is sincerity. That they understand this is the vocation of a priest or a priestess, and that we put it on the same level that you would put a Catholic priest on. It's not less than because it's a fringe religion to us. We take it just as seriously. Now, as you climb the ladder of dedication, those oaths become more serious. You know, a high priest or a high priestess should not, you know, blasé walk away. You know, I suppose they still can, but at that point, I think the obligation's a bit bigger and deeper. I would say sincerity is what we're looking for, and that you take it as a real vocation, not something you're going to get paid for, but something that you're willing to serve. What is the service? The service is to the gods. The service is to the magical arts. The service is to your fellow priesthood, your fellow coven, helping to lift them up, helping to teach others, eventually passing that forward. It's kind of like learning how to raise children and then raising them yourself, or at least taking care of the ones you have. You know, so it's about uplifting the entire community. I do think there's an obligation we have to humanity, but we don't have a laity like other religions do. So we're not there to proselytize, preach. I mean, in the way we are doing now, education, fine. But we're not sitting here going, you need the goddess in your life. you need magic in your life. That's not our vocation in the world. But we are connected to humanity, and the goddess is connected to humanity. So therefore, we make ourselves available to those who wish to seek, or for those who wish to come to the temple and contact us. So I think the service is about the service to the goddess and our god, the Horned One, and to the realms of magic and to other initiates. That's where the prime service goes, to learning and to knowing and to teach. However, there are broader things as well. Go on, articulate.
I will. Ellie, what do you think when you think of sacrifice?
Like, once you were all done being crazy, then I'm going to dot the T's.
I'm good. I'm very good, I promise. Ellie, what do you consider sacrifice and service, and what do we look for in that when it comes to a sequel?
Sacrifice and service, one more thing. Sacrifice and service are the same thing. The sacrifice that we make, however, is ourselves, our minds and our hearts. That's it, not a chicken.
I feel that we begin to embody and take on a persona in our inner heart, in our being. We are serving the god and the goddess, and then we're maybe serving our particular things that we are devoted to. Like, I'm a plant person, so I work harder on environmental issues and plant issues. I like New Orleans, and I do some work to try to help the city thrive and be peaceful and happy, especially spiritually. So we each have our particular interests. But I find more and more that when I wake up in the morning and I get dressed and I start my day, I am here as a representative of the old gods. I'm a representative of my lineage and my witchcraft tradition, and I'm here to help people, to answer questions, to guide, and to lead, and be prepared at every moment of every day to be seen, watched, and to reach out if people ask me for anything, for help, advice, or ideas.
Absolutely.
All the time. It's really
Ellie likes to help people.
Alexander, to answer your question, I think that sacrifice is what Brian and Ellie both spoke on, which is sacrifice to the gods and to people. Service, service to the community, service to the priesthood.
Sacrifice your sanity.
You do sacrifice your sanity, I'm not going to lie. But if you're asking for something that I would tell people who are seeking, who are coming to craft, and they're very serious about it, and they're not just interested in some sort of cheap spell work or whatever, but they're actually interested in the transformative power of initiation, I would say this to them. You are going to sacrifice, on some level, your experience of the mundane. Witchcraft does exist in a liminal space. It does exist in a sacred space. It exists within a caste circle, both in a literal sense and in a metaphysical one. So I think that I would say to someone, if you're not ready to truly experience religious transformation, you're going to have a problem. I was arguing with my partner recently about religion, actually, and he's very interested in Buddhism, and he sort of sees religion's goal as calmness. And this is what I called him out on a little bit. I said, I don't agree with you.
Maybe that's what he needs.
He does.
I mean, he's with you after all.
I know, right? God help him. But what I said to him was, here's the difference between me as an initiate, I won't speak for all initiates, and other people who are interested in spirituality.
Do you think Christian will end up a Buddhist?
No, never. Some people say spiritual teacher, and their image is a monk. Their image is somebody who's at one with the universe and very calm. And I told my partner, I said, you see a monk, I see a maenad. And so I'm looking for religious ecstasy. And so I do tell people who are interested in initiation, the threat, the sacrifice, the service is sometimes that it's going to be rough, it's going to be transformative, and the real world will no longer sate you. And that's the threat, that's the sacrifice, and that is what you will forfeit on some level. And it can either drive you to greater heights or it can drive you mad. And that will be your training and your choice. Does that make sense?
So I thought, Alexander, I thought you might be a friend of mine from New York when you first called.
Alexander.
That's why I was teasing you at first. But thank you for calling.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alexander.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
Love the name.
I know, right?
He sounded hot.
Brian, that's not...
Well, he might not be, but he sounded...
Also might be a child. We don't know.
Oh, that wasn't a child.
You don't know.
Oh, I said he sounded hot. Didn't break any laws.
I want to say to everyone out there in YouTube land and Facebook land. We see your comments in chat. Thank you so much. You guys are saying some beautiful things about the show and the topics tonight. We see you.
And we do love our listeners.
Thank you
so much. Even the hater that dislikes every video, we love you.
We love you. I also want to let everybody know I have an amazing app on my phone that lets me know about astrological things. And tonight, if your sky is clear and it's not storming like here, you will see Venus shining brightly next to the crescent moon.
That's happened recently.
Okay. Yeah, you will see Venus shining quite brightly.
Venus is Arrow, Lucifer.
Diana Lucifera, right?
So, Ellie. You've got a moment. Come on, girl, go.
Every single time she talks.
If I start talking, somebody will call. We are reaching, during COVID times, and probably any great stressful time on the planet, in the modern age with the internet, we are reaching more people because we're on our YouTube channels and we're on our personal pages and we're talking more and making videos, which is fine, and that's been true for me too. But it makes so much more valuable your close, intimate relationships with dear friends and spiritual people that you've made in person. They have become so deep and valuable.
You're not wrong.
In this
You're not
time
wrong.
period.
Even
though we're reaching more people, and I think that's beautiful and lovely that we can reach out. And
it
like
is.
you said, those of these new people that we are connecting with, if they hang in there, they'll be there in the future as real friends.
And the dedication that it proves, that is what I keep telling people, and people get frustrated by that answer. But if you as Ellie is saying, as Brian has said earlier in the show, if you are interested, if you are struggling, think about the dedication you're going to show by waiting. That already says something to a serious group that you're not
I'm
running
not a
away.
very patient person. I think that's one of the virtues I've had to struggle with throughout my life, is that I want things right now. I find the best way to be patient is to be calculating. It passes the time.
I feel like have a good book. That's a big thing for me. I have recommendations. We just had a
Alan, you just have obligations. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be calling you out. You've got obligations right now that I think hold you back, but for a noble reason. You're choosing to do things for a kind, loving reason. So that's a true thing, and I see you and understand that. But the reality of the situation is magic will find a way. If this is something you really want, you'll find a way to make it happen.
Yep.
Regardless of your situation. My first priestess had 3 small children. Someone's calling. It's the devil.
Welcome to Covendom.
Hi, Levi.
Hi. Who's this?
Hey, it's Brian. I was the first caller. I have another question.
He has another question. What's your question?
My question is, have any of you, and this goes for all 3 of you, have any of you ever been in a relationship with someone who was not of magic persuasion?
It's like a muggle. Have we ever been in a relationship with a totally mundane person?
Of course we have.
Yeah, that's my life right now.
Of course we have.
No.
What?
No.
Never.
Oh, and I meant to say, if you have, how was it, or what was the experience like?
I'll have to let you all answer that.
I have had relationships with people that weren't magical in my life. I mean, as young as I am. But
he's a blushing bride, everyone.
Oh, sometimes the sex was good, but I think they were boring on some level. And I had other magical people in my life. It's kind of like, I don't think I could do it now. Think I could do it now.
Not at all.
I think now it would be an issue for me. But, when I was younger, I just wanted a boyfriend. I didn't, as long as he had a pulse.
Brian Cain, everybody, with his high standards. Jesus.
Well, back then, you were just like, oh my God, I've got a boyfriend. He's cute. That's all you cared about.
I was a devout celibate Catholic for years, people, so I do not share these stories.
Levi was fat, everyone.
Why do you always do this?
Because it's the truth. Nobody wanted to do him.
That's not true. Oh my God, you hateful queen.
I wanted to do it, and he's straight, and I'm straight. I wanted him so bad.
I refuse to engage in any of this.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Ellie,
love him.
Let's get back to some sacredness in this moment.
No, men wanted to.
Ellie, what is it like to date somebody who's not magical when you are a magical person?
Well, it's very disruptive. First of all, when you practice witchcraft or you study the occult in any format, it's impossible for me to choose to be with someone who wasn't at least accepting and understanding and gave
They
me
must obey.
the authority to say, you do what you want to, Ellie, it's fine. I won't interfere with you. That's sort of a minimal requirement. If someone else had very different religious or political views or cultural views than I have, no way. Eat them for lunch.
Eat them for lunch, she says.
But then after that, we've got somebody who says, okay, your way's cool, that's fine, you do your thing. After that criteria is met, what I would really prefer is that I date someone who has a spiritual practice.
Yes.
Who understands what devotion is, someone who recognizes its importance and it is important to them. I don't mind, well, I do mind what religion people I date hold.
Like I don't want a Calvinist.
I'm not going to date a Calvinist, but I have dated Muggles, and they're very lovely people. Any of my Muggle boyfriends out there that are watching, and the 2 UPS men that used to live down the street from me, yes, you guys were Muggles.
Mine is right next to me.
Miss Ellie, she's talking such sin.
It's just gotta be a one-night stand. It's just gotta be a one-night stand.
It's gotta be a one-night stand, she says. Okay, here's what I'll say, Brian.
I'm not saying we couldn't be attracted to someone. It's not magical.
If you love somebody, it shouldn't matter. But I will say this. I don't,
It has to matter.
I would want them to at least be spiritual. That's the thing. Like, my partner's not a witch, but they're
Christian
spiritual.
once said to a friend of his on his phone, he was on the phone and I was walking through, what's that big park here?
City Park?
Yeah, City Park. We were walking through City Park. Sorry. We were walking through City Park and I had 2 initiates with me from England. And Christian was on the phone. We didn't even know who he was on the phone with. And he just loudly proclaims, if you're not an initiate, Brian doesn't care about you. And we're just like,
I mean,
who is he talking to and what is he talking about?
Google, show me where the lie is.
I don't think he
I'm
was
sorry,
an
I could not
initiate
find
at the
it.
time either. I don't think he was an initiate.
No, that makes it worse. But Brian, do you see what we're saying? Like, Brian phone Brian, not Brian blonde Brian. Like, it's
Totally.
like, it
Do you
depends.
spell your name with an I or a Y?
The best way and the only way, a Y. It's like, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. Just kidding, Brian.
No, but I don't think, I think it's fine in the grand scheme, you know?
Yeah. Well, I just felt obligated to ask because, that's my current situation, and I couldn't ask for a better situation. I mean, I will
If
say
you're happy,
it
you're
always
happy.
makes
It doesn't
me,
really matter, right?
it makes me chuckle when I go out to the woods at night, and he's like, don't go alone. Take a knife with you. There may be bears.
I completely forgot.
I love how Brian Cain knows you, Brian phone Brian, as Devil Brian.
Well, because I literally forgot that
Brian.
you were the same Brian, because you sound different on this
But
thing
Brian,
here.
is there respect for your practice? Is there respect between both of you? Right, then it's okay.
Phone Brian, Ellie is asking, or Devil
Brian,
Brian.
if you have the devil, why do you need a boyfriend? Anyway, thanks for calling.
No, she's asking Ellie. She just asked, "Is there respect? That's what matters. Like if you respect each other and your tradition or your practices are respected, that's all that matters."
Yep, I
Well,
totally
then
agree.
You are golden.
If you're happy and he's happy, that's all that matters.
Then you're golden.
Yeah. I don't think I could do it
I
anymore.
say date witches. I
Definitely.
say date witches. They're so
Ellie is
exotic.
Maybe in
on
the
a
future,
tirade.
though,
Hey, not I.
when I'm 60 and I'm dating a 20-year-old, maybe then I won't care.
Then Brian won't care what religion that they practice. But yes, thank you for calling again, Devil Brian, and may the Dark Lord watch over
for having
you.
me.
May the Dark Lord
All right.
watch over you and you and yours.
Ciao, blessed be.
Bye.
Ciao, bye.
I love how somebody in the comments, another Alex, by the way, is like, is just quoting you. If you have the devil, why do you need a boyfriend? I also love that Christian is already like, what? Excuse me, when you're 60. Like,
Christian, when I'm 60, you'll probably be dead.
do you hear yourself when you talk?
Let's do the math here.
It's not. No, it doesn't even work that way, baby. Like,
Most men don't live past 70-something.
Christian, honey, I'm so sorry. I
He's
know.
just a few years older than you, not 30 years older than you, just a handful.
Like 5 years.
5, oh my God.
It matters.
5. Christian, I know the truth. You're going to live a long time. You're going to be around forever. And we're all going to know you into eternity.
Oh, he'll outlive me.
Oh, 100%.
No, he
Christian, you'll
will.
outlive us all. You'll be at the home screaming at somebody, yelling at the people. It's going to be awful.
You'll be here.
It's just going to be you and like,
Christian, you're the same age as my older brother.
you are fabulously young and eternal. I love how this show has devolved quickly.
Oh, we didn't have a plan. All right, so Ellie, back to your question.
Back to your question so that we get another caller.
No, my question, as a Coven member. And what I was thinking about today, and this is a very personal question and maybe a little embarrassing.
Oh, no.
I am seeking support and nourishment from my gods today because I am facing, a lot of stressful days with my clients, a lot of older family members, and I very rarely reach out to gods to ask for things for myself.
Yeah.
And lately I've been really asking them for nourishment and spiritual food and energy and love. And I've really kind of been embarrassed about it and had a bit of a problem with it. And so I was just asking the group, how do we get nourishment from our gods in witchcraft? How do we get love?
Before Brian answers this, because he'll have a good, as a teacher, I'm sure the answer will be a little different. But I can say this. One of the things that I sometimes get irritated with in conversations about traditional witchcraft is this concept that we don't have any sort of mystical sweetness. Like it's all this rigid power structure, raise the power, the book doesn't have anything like that. I'm not going to spill anything. I'm a very tight-lipped initiate, but I will say this. There are things in the Book of Shadows that are straight up prayers. 100%.
There are a couple that called prayers.
And there are
corrected at one point by that.
There are moments in our ritual that are about beauty and sweetness.
I personally like the word.
Agree. I agree with Brian that we want to teach something a little bit more esoteric and powerful. However, what I would say to Ellie is if our gods are reflections of the human experience within nature, if they are reflections of the divine, then we can go to them to have that connection to something greater than self. So I think that's the greatest gift they could give you as nourishment, is that in a time of isolation and fear and violence and, instability and whatnot, they represent your connection to the thing that is greater than you. One of my favorite stories that exemplifies this is actually from, and I hate to bring this up because it's such a dark subject, in such a lighthearted show, but there's a story from the Holocaust about a prayer that a rabbi says where he says, every day his prayer was, and I'm getting this from the comedian Jen Kirkman, actually, if you ever watch her stand-up, she talks about this, but I've heard it before her, where every day the rabbi prayed, thank you, God, for not making me one of them. That was his daily prayer. So the thing is even in times of darkness, our gods represent that we are connected to something more eternal, more beautiful, more powerful than the mundane, the wicked, the broken, right? So that's one of the ways they can nourish us, is that we are connected to the greater egregore of spirit, right?
And put our mind on it daily.
Yep.
It's really one of those things that it's like you can't overly intellectualize, because when I think about my, moments of connecting with the god or the goddess, it's power, and there's emotion, and there's knowledge. There's energy coming through, but there's information in that energy. Communicated in ways that you can only experience. There have been many, many times when I've worked with the gods where I've just had that realization that they're real. Right. They're real. And somehow they're listening to me right now, they're connecting with me right now, they're a part of me right now. Call it a spiritual orgasm, if you will. Right? So I think it's the knowledge of them, the knowing of them that feeds you, because when you know that you have a relationship with something beyond yourself and you are aware that it is aware of you, that just does feed you. And in witchcraft we worship, but we also worship for power. So they give us power. It's through the power, part of that prayer or invocation is also to receive the power. These are magical gods. They're custodians of the arts magical, and we are the practitioners of the arts magical. So in the religion of witchcraft, I think it's often forgotten. We talk about our beliefs, we talk about the gods, we talk about rituals, but I think it's often forgotten that these are the gods of magic, and that magic is a central part to everything that we do. There's not a ritual that isn't begin with a spell. The very first words we utter in any ritual is a spell. Right? So,
and I think that's very powerful, though, is this concept of magic is, and I don't want to take this off the rails, but Ellie's question about how do they feed you? Well, Brian's right, magic. I mean, like, that is the whole concept, is that my will matters and that I can work it into the world and knit it together into the warp and weft of the destiny that I live in a very real way. It's a sense of agency. Agency matters. Right. And witchcraft feeds you by teaching you that. It feeds you by teaching you that your agency matters. There's, helplessness is a very difficult place to be in if you believe in magic. So that's a huge way that it helps feed you, right?
They answer our call. They connect and communicate with us, and then they give us the tools of action to solve our problems.
Yes, that's the other thing is I think it's a truth anyway, even if you're not a witch. I think that look at what we've done as human beings. At least as a species, we were clearly given the power to create and destroy. We were given the knowledge, the ability to come up with the knowledge to destroy our whole planet 1,000 times fold, right?
Yeah. Fire from heaven.
Like we literally have the ability to destroy ourselves at any moment in day, and that may likely be how the story ends. But we also have the ability to create magnificent things. That is something that was given to us. It says, we are in charge.
Yes.
God is with us, but not controlling things. We were given the tools. We were given the choices. So
important. This is what Brian is saying right now is unbelievably important for understanding esoteric movements, for understanding witchcraft. What do you mean? Yeah, he said that.
But I mean, do you think it was like a real...
maybe, yeah. But I want to say this. What Brian is saying is cannot be overstated. Like, Brian could not be overstating this in witchcraft. Like, the concept of we are the gods working within the world, right? This is so central to who we are. And the best way that I can explain this is I was, again, arguing with my partner recently about the world or whatever, and we cracked a joke and said, why are the gods so cruel? And I always have an answer to that. When somebody says, why is God so cruel? I always say, because we're cruel. Like, that's what it is. When mankind makes the decision to choose injustice over justice, to choose cruelty over mercy, to choose vindictive natures over community, to choose authoritarianism over freedom, whenever we make those choices, we're choosing for God. Yes. We are deciding, right, that we are going to act in that way, and therefore we have decided to worship a cruel and vicious God, and a cruel and vicious God we shall get.
Yes.
And it's just like how the Carthaginians would sacrifice, or in Northern Africa, their children to Astarte, and they lost the Punic Wars. They became their fields were salted, right? If you choose to worship viciousness, then that is the God that will rule you, right? So if that we are the choice. You are the choice, right? You are the divinity. So, why are the gods cruel sometimes? Because we are cruel sometimes.
And
so
why we have to take responsibility.
Yes, and why we exactly.
Life on Earth. This is
life on Earth is partially and almost fully sometimes, because we're conscious, our responsibility. Yes.
Especially on our planet.
And magically, it's the same way. It's like, I think this is one of the things I will keep going back to. Our ethics, or our ways of thinking. We believe magic is real.
Intent.
Now we're getting away. Yeah, you can see it when it happens. We think magic is real. We know magic is real. So we as beings aren't going to separate like ethics and motives and actions and reactions from the mundane and magic. So if I put a spell on Levi to make him fall in love with a hippopotamus and then get eaten by that hippopotamus. Or I push Levi into the water with a hippopotamus so he gets eaten or trampled on by. Those are the same things.
The intent is the same.
Mm-hmm. So the knowledge, the power, the ability for me to even be able to be a creature that calculates such things. My dogs are very smart. They would not be able to articulate the things that we're able to articulate, that's a gift. The gods have given us the ability to rise or fall on our own merits as a species. And magic is another one of those skill sets. It's not separate from. We were given a whole belt of skill sets, and this is one of them.
Yep.
And certain societies have... Don't get me wrong. The Catholic Church and the Christian Church and the Muslims and all those organized Abrahamic faiths do understand, on the higher levels, they do understand power and magic, even if they don't think they do.
Because they've
just tried to harness it to the select few people. They don't want common people to have that power. because once we do, we all become equalizers, right? So, not saying any of you are going to be an equalizer, but you could. You could be the next Merlin.
Can I just say, to bring this back down to the point of this whole show, because we only have a few minutes left, I will say this. I love this call-in thing.
Oh, people called in.
I love this. I think this should be the next season. I love this. I'm super into it. Hi, welcome to Covendom.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Who is this?
Hi, this is Wicked Witch 80.
Hey, how are you?
Hello.
Pretty good. I was wanting to ask you guys, for you guys, what is the difference between prayer and spell work? Or is there even a difference?
I'll let Brian answer this, but all I'll say is this. I think it really depends on context. Honestly, historically, people have tried to differentiate between this. Historically, like for example, in the witch trials, the difference was it didn't come from God, or it was you trying to put your will in the place of the Lord. But honestly, if you go pre-Christian and you're just looking at Greek, Roman sources, Egyptian sources, it is very hard in the language of those cultures to differentiate between the two. I think that there is this later occult mythology that developed that said that prayer was when you gave your will over to God, whereas magic was when you tried to create the will yourself. I think that's a modern creation.
I'm going to let Brian answer this first, and then you did it. But keep going.
I did, didn't I? I'm sorry.
You're good. No, you're good.
But I think, honestly, Brian and I might disagree about this, honestly.
No, not really.
Yeah, it's just, I think it's,
Not
honestly...
disagree, just a different...
I think it's not a good debate to have, because I don't think that let me tell you this. Here's how I'll end this, and I'm sure I'll get a lot of people to disagree with me. Go to a Pentecostal church in the middle of Appalachia, watch the fervor and power with which they pray and how they do it, and tell me it's not magic. It's just, it depends on where you're at. That's what I'll say. So, it's context.
I agree.
I've learned a lot about this in the sense that you'd have to think the difference between, first of all, I think the main reason why that witches often, myself included, don't really like the word prayer, even though we do have it. We've got a few poems in the Book of Shadows that are called prayers. They do exist. Because of it's kind of the difference between how a Catholic prays and how a Protestant prays. Catholics often pray in a very ritualistic sense and perhaps with a purpose in mind, where Protestants do seem to give it all up to God with no ritual. I think from an occult practitioner's what I would have originally made the difference is, like Levi said, you're giving the will up to God, which we as religious witches certainly do in every ritual. However, I think that the real difference between a prayer and a spell that I think most people are centering into, and might be more of the key factor of whether or not that prayer is answered, is that your own will enters therein. So if your own will doesn't enter therein, it's not going to work, no matter what god or goddess you pray to. We certainly do pray to our gods. We might call it an invocation, but our will enters therein. I think within Christianity, the will doesn't always enter therein. So whereas we have knowledge, we are giving some of that power over to the gods because it's an act of co-creation. Some people just are like, God, please help me. I'm sad. I've got no, please make someone love me or whatever it is. And it's very desperate and there's no will in it. I think that's the difference between a prayer and a spell.
Yes.
A spell has your own will and intent involved in the ritualistic act, whereas a prayer may or may not have your own will enacted.
And I'm going to pass it on to Ellie real quick, but before I pass it, I just want to make one thing. If you look up historical spell work, and I can give historic examples, the book Arcana Mundi is great, which is a collection of Greek spells. If you look up the Greek magical papyri, they're prayers, people. They're labeled as spells, but they literally are, "Oh great Isis, do X for me."
Guess what? A lot of their spells probably didn't work either.
Yes.
Because unless you know the formula, it's not going to. Your will has to be entered into. So I think that's why a lot of witches don't like the word prayer.
Agreed.
But in fact, we're religious witches. We pray in every ritual. we don't call it that normally.
Yes. Ellie?
I think they are two very specific tools in any religious format. Prayer work, to me, opens the door of emotional communication between a human and their God forms, and that it's a really important link up tool and an expression of your emotions. Spell work, to me, is very scientific, on the other hand. It would utilize a specific day of the week, maybe hour of the day, certain corresponding qualities with the tools you're using, herbs, candle, color, scent, etc. And you're doing a specific scientific operation in spell work to cause a particular event to occur. So really, I think both are used together. You do your prayer work to refine your emotions and express your needs and qualities to your deities. Spell work is the operative scientific tool that allows you to create an event.
Become involved.
Yeah.
Very specifically.
And I just taught this at HexFest actually in my class, which you can watch if you bought HexFest tickets through Crowdcast. I think all magic is theurgic at its core. I don't believe in such a thing as natural magic. I think it's a Renaissance invention. I think that nobody before the Renaissance believed in such a thing as occult natural magics that were not connected to God. Like, it is just not a thing historically before the Renaissance. I'm sorry. There's no record of it whatsoever. It was always religious.
It was all through God.
It was all through God. It was all religious. So, like, there is no concept of natural corresponded magic that is completely divorced from religious belief before the Renaissance.
It's playing with modern verbiage a lot, you know, and one of my big lessons for it was, because I'm one of those witches who doesn't really like the word praying, and it comes from a certain place of my own journey, but learning a bit about, you know, there's a huge difference between how Catholics pray and how Protestants pray.
Or Muslims or
that
Jews.
You know, that was kind of my, you know, well, in my sense, that was the thing that I was relatable for me, you know. I think sometimes people fall into it. Somebody was talking about Pentecostal church. I've been to some Pentecostal churches, and that there are some times when, first of all, they're very good at raising power. They usually don't know what to do with it. But there are certain people, because of the mechanics of it seems like an unorganized ritual, but it's actually quite organized. Mm-hmm. You've got speaking in tongues, you've got the certain members of that congregation who are the prophets, you've got certain members who will prophesy and certain members who will interpret the prophecy. Yep. It becomes a ritual, but those acts, when they become the instruments of that prayer, they have put their will into it.
It's magic.
And so, yes, they accidentally fall into it. You know, they wouldn't call it a spell. Just like I don't normally go, you know, let's go in, hey, Coven, let's get together and pray. It's not a verbiage we use. But like Levi's saying, ancient prayer and invocation are basically inseparable. Like, they're not, it's the same thing.
Does that answer your question, Wicked Witch? I'm going to assume it does. I might have lost you.
Thank you for calling.
Thank you so much for calling. It was a pleasure. We are over time.
We might have to hang up for just a few more minutes because we are expecting.
Are we?
We've gotten a lot more calls than we expected.
That's true. Yes, who am I forgetting?
Somebody from Mexico. So I don't know if that's going to happen. So we'll give it a few more minutes. Ellie still hasn't got to finish her.
Ellie has never finished a thought, not once this whole show.
I finished my thoughts. And you guys gave me great answers on getting nourishment from our gods. And I think that's important about prayer. And that's really kind of the missing link. It's okay to pray extra.
I will say,
if life is stressful, go ahead and speak it out. You know, say what you need to express.
I completely understand where Brian's coming from, though, about why he would not love the word prayer as a word.
It's not my favorite word.
Yes.
I don't use it either.
I use it a lot, but I use it in a way that I have to be mindful of that not everybody is hearing it. And that Brian has sort of made me aware of that. Is he said to me one time when we were having...
It's not really in the
he
craft,
said people aren't hearing what you're trying to say.
In the craft, it's not really lingo that we use.
Yes.
You know, it does exist within our workings, maybe by certain individuals.
True.
But it does exist in there are a couple references to prayers. But yeah, it's just not really. No, we say invocation, evocation. Is it essentially the same thing in the Catholic sense? Yes. Yeah, it is. But
And something I always go back to is something Maxine said at Hexfest one year when I asked her, what do you do with people who nowadays you have people saying they want to be atheist initiates or whatever? And she said, she made me very nervous because she started the whole thing out because she's very tongue-in-cheek sometimes by going, I can feel like an atheist on most days. And I got very uncomfortable.
What are we going to say?
But then she laughed and she said something along the lines of, we raise power through worship, and that's what I would let them know. So if you're raising power through worship, I think Brian's right. It's a verbiage question and not so much a question of, but I agree with him about using the
early
right
on in most publications on witchcraft and the occult, one of the standing points that was given is that Christians pray, witches cast spells. The difference is Christians are asking God to solve their problems and witches are solving their own problems. That is extremely simplistic from our vantage point, but there's something to that idea, but it's extremely simplistic. We're going from an ancient, Levi and I and Ellie, of course, and many of you are taking everything from ancient Egypt and classical Greece and everything up till now and factoring it all in. Most people aren't.
That's true.
Most people are like, what's going on now? And what's going on now is that prayer is a Christian thing or a Muslim thing or an Abrahamic thing, and witches cast spells. You're not taught as a seeker or that witches pray. That's not normally a thing you hear. Witches are going into circles and praying to their gods. It's just not the verbiage being used. Witches go in and they cast spells. Well, these do take on meanings, I think it's about, I hate the whole, it's all about intent, but it's about your will factoring in. You believe you are part of the process. You don't believe that, God is doing it for you. You believe you and God are doing it together.
Yeah.
Whereas a Christian or a Muslim or a Jew does not believe they are a part of the process necessarily. Some might.
Yeah, I will argue.
Yeah.
Most of them don't, but the sort of higher end parts of it do, and that's why.
Well, I think some of them know.
They do know
how it works.
They do know.
Yeah. The Pope certainly knows he's part of it.
Yes.
In the South, listen to this example. In the South, where we live, when someone says, I'm just going to go pray about it, or someone recommends that someone go pray about it, we all
have
know
a think on it.
But what they really mean, though, is subjugate your will to God's will. You will be told by God what you need to understand.
You're involved.
And we do not do that.
It's passive. For us, we might pray about it, but then we're going to go back into the circle and do spell work so that our will is influencing the outcome.
Yes.
I mean, as Alexandrians, and I believe this is a part of our culture, we're not anti-Christian. We're really not. That's not the place we're coming from. There was a thing recently posted on Instagram, and it was a picture of Alex. And there was all this commentary, and I decided to chime in. And the guy who did it thanked me for it, but some of the people were attacking it because it was Alex in his white robe with his sword, and it had the Magus circle. And in the picture, it showed one priest. It didn't show it because it was just that picture. So they were all like, here's Alexander's casting a circle with a priest. And they were
who cares?
And what's up with all this Jewish stuff? And they were going on and on and on about it. So I just said, well, I think it's very shocking to some modern pagans that we Alexandrians work with occult forces beyond their current soapbox. They don't get it, and I understand, because you're talking about something that was occurring before you existed.
You also, if you don't believe
and then I explained where it came from.
Exactly. If you don't believe in that Jewish stuff or that Christian stuff, then good luck with the entire Western occult tradition. You're going to have to throw it in the garbage because it is entirely, utterly linked to it. It is inseparable.
If you took what we knew about the
so good luck.
Saxons and the Vikings and the Celts and tried to bottle it, it would be
a very small bottle.
A very small bottle. A lot of it is coming from other sources, and it's been looked through those lenses to be reconstructed. Alexandria witchcraft doesn't really try to reconstruct witchcraft. We actually literally take witchcraft for what it is and then allow the other things to happen.
Yeah.
Whereas I do think some witchcraft traditions do try to pretend it's all witchcraft. We're no, yeah, this is an angel dude
Yeah. Work with angels.
Like, this is an angel. And yeah, we're going to invoke an angel. What does that do with witchcraft? Absolutely nothing. Now let's do this.
Yeah.
I mean.
I'm so not into, I'm 100% not into hardcore strip away every part of the Christian tradition within the occult. It's not going to happen.
Why are you invoking an angel? Because I need something done. I'm a huge proponent of witchcraft can accomplish anything, but at the same time, there are other avenues to go at things sometimes, and especially when you're working your solitary magics. Witchcraft is not really a solitary art. Not real witchcraft. It really isn't. It's a coven-based thing. Magic can be solitary, and you can certainly be a witch and work magic solitary. But a lot of times when witches are working alone, even coven-based witches, we're not using. We might be kind of using what we get in craft, but it's not the same as what we do in coven. So a lot of times we go into other systems. This is why. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I'm not going to wait around any longer, so we can wrap it up.
Tell us about next season. What's
So,
on the horizon? What exciting?
We don't know.
We don't know. Surprise.
So, we're going to probably take a small break. I don't know if it'll be a really long one. We haven't decided yet. We had ideas. Levi liked this call. But here's
I love the calling thing.
We had arranged calls, and then a lot of other people called in. They've never called before.
I don't know. I love it, though.
But if it kept happening, we've got no way of making it
I need to make this work. I want to be the person that answers the phones.
Call-ins.
I'm super into it. Can we please have this be a real call-in show?
If I started at home, I could be the first caller, and I could initiate the call.
We just have to initiate it.
We need to arrange call-ins.
We need to arrange call-ins because I love.
Well, we had an idea of maybe arranging video interviews, but I didn't really want to be another interview show because it's just.
I'm here for call-in. Welcome to Witchcraft. Welcome to 1-800-Witchcraft. I'm here to answer all your questions.
I know. We love to hear from you, our listeners, because you're the only reason we're doing this. So for season 3, should we just keep doing what we're doing? Should we try to do the call-in thing? Or
thank you, Michael. I do want to switchboard.
How would you feel about video interviews with people we find have credentials?
Yeah, leave us a comment.
I mean, there's lots of people that already
say?
do that, and we could. But let us know. Your opinion matters.
This is the coast to coast.
Coast to coast witchcraft with Levi and Brian. Can we get radio voices and be like, "Hi, you're on the air with Levi and Brian. This is Easy Listening 94.7. Up next, Nights in White Satin."
I also want to know: do you love the mustache? Because you
it's been wonderful tonight.
Levi, do you like my mustache?
I do. I like a mustache. I like mustaches.
I do in person, but
because I'm blonde.
See it on the screen. You really can't see it.
Nobody can see it, Brian. It's too pale.
Well, it's because it's so small, darling.
See, everybody loves my call-in thing. Okay. Keep shooting us comments on Facebook or YouTube. We'll see them even after the fact about what you want to see in season 3. But until then, it has been absolutely wonderful coming to you every Friday here from the Historic French Quarter. And we will continue the journey into season 3, guys.
And thank you so much for listening, because this started out as just like an experiment. And Levi and myself are dedicated priests to the goddess, to witchcraft, to magic. And we really just wanted to take a chance and say, hey, what if we contribute something to YouTube and Facebook about, witchcraft from, an experienced initiatory tradition? And we've been received very well by most people, and people seem to enjoy it. We've also tried to be entertaining and not have the broomstick up our arse too much. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed it, and you realize we're coming from a place of sincerity and dedication, but we also try to have fun.
And it was great having Ellie here tonight. We love you, Ellie. Blessed be. To all the initiates, blessed be. To everyone else, good luck. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. We love you all.
You don't have to be initiated.
No, not at all.
I now care about some non-initiates.
I cannot believe I put him on another rant. But we love it's been fantastic. I've had a blast. I can't wait to see what we do at the next one. And up next, Nights in White Satin. But no, I will see you next time, guys. You have a wonderful evening.
We look forward to your feedback.
From ours to yours, many blessings. May the God and Goddess watch over us all.